Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
100 days and a handful of hours on from a phenomenally fast and intriguing Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. The teams and drivers of the RSRA Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series have reconvened for their first outing of season 2022, not 7 hours down the road. We've gone from the central west of New South Wales to beautiful northeastern country Victoria, to Ned Kelly country, to iRacing's newest venue, to Winton Raceway in Benalla for round one of the 2022 campaign. 160 kilometres, 54 laps ahead of these drivers tonight. One hell of a way to start what's going to be an intriguing and compelling season of racing right here as we bring you the first Tuesday night motorsport of 2022 on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Good evening, everybody. Zach Caven and Matt Davis with you. Welcome as we bring you live coverage. Cars on circuit now for qualifying for the opening round of the Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series and, of course, the Winton 160. Matt Davis, welcome into you. 12 weeks ahead of us. I'm going to go through the calendar in more detail in just a moment. It starts and finishes in Australia. We go back to where we were only 100 days ago. We've got Oran Park in there for good measure too. Some of the best race tracks in the world and some of the best drivers in Australian sim racing to make this the must-watch event each and every Tuesday night for the next 12 weeks.
Big good evening to you, Zach Caven. Welcome back to the commentary booth as well for the RSRA. It's been some time between drinks on a Tuesday night for us.
100%.
It's obviously 99 days ago we were racing for the Super 2, but 100 days ago we were racing for the Super Series, and a long time between drinks for us. Not so much on the other platforms that we have been commentating on, but all the effort has gone to show, especially in last night's broadcast, of what 90 plus days, 100 odd days can do to a complete series. And it's so good to be back in Down Under, back in my hometown as well. Only 6 hours up the road from me, 4 or 5 hours up the road from me. Is old Benalla and Winton Raceway. So if anything of last night's to go by, I think that not just us in the commentary booth, but the viewers at home, they're going to be getting 2 main courses, I think, back to back.
Well, I was going to say it's quite interesting this year. Loyal viewers will know the big change in our broadcast schedule for this season. As you see, qualifying underway there and times coming in already. We'll analyse that and cover it with some rolling commentary before too long, but we want to just sit here and have a chat about the ins and outs of this season and what to look forward to before we sink our teeth into round one properly. I think the big change this year that everyone's already taken note of is that instead of going from the main course into dessert Tuesday night into Wednesday, we're starting with the entree on Monday night and then into the main course on Tuesday. However, Matt Davis, we said off air in the lead up to going on live tonight that the Super Series has one hell of a task ahead of itself tonight if it's going to emulate and match and maybe even surpass the show that the Super 2 boys put on last night. Right off the top, before we go any further, for the benefit of anyone, including myself for other reasons, missed last night, just give us a quick synopsis of what went down.
Oh, mate, it was full of drama from the get-go. We had newcomers to the series, 12 new drivers to the Super 2 E Series. We've had returning drivers, and one of them being David Nash, the round winner of last night, and he stormed home. He got a bit lucky. Seb Bundell copped a drive-through penalty for a pit lane infringement, and obviously race control wasn't going lightly last night on any driver in pit lane. I think there was about 7 or 8 infringements within pit lane itself last night, and that's obviously the butterflies coming out. David Nash came home to a demanding win. I think he came home with about 8 seconds to spare. It was out to nearly 18 seconds, and just by the end of the race he just buttoned off a little bit, saved some fuel, and went about his business and brought it home with great fashion for the right sim racing boys. Obviously Dino, our man in the Super 2 E Series, he was happy in the booth to see one of his teammates come home on the top step, and it was good to have Nashi back in, and 2 new drivers. Dave Coleman came home in second, Sebastian Bundell came home in third, but it wasn't an easy night in the office. A lot of drama-filled action, a lot of cars coming into one another, and that braking zone into turn one, going for the big dive, a little bit over ambitious and just locking those rears and just watch them slide through and come across the front of drivers out in the exit of turn two. So other than that, it was a sensational race. 54 laps, Cabo, to go through on safety car free. All green flag racing, 54 laps. So if the boys tonight can beat that, I think they're going to be getting the double main course.
Absolutely right. Now, on the subject of tonight, here's how it breaks down for you. We get going with this 35-minute qualifying session. The drivers have had the rare treat, the rare luxury, if you like, of a 1 hour practice session leading into this qualifying session tonight. This qualifying session will be 35 minutes. Then there'll be a driver's briefing for 5 minutes. And then at 8:40 Eastern Daylight Time, we will get underway with the 54-lap race, which will be somewhere in the vicinity of 1 hour and 10 minutes of running around Winton Raceway. We'll get to the race facts and the analysis of that very shortly, so that you know what to keep an eye out on and what to make note of as we go throughout the course of the night. We'll talk about the circuit in more detail in just a moment as well. But this is one of the hottest fields that we've ever gathered and assembled for an RSRA Super Series season opener. And thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana, of course, the naming rights sponsor of all of our major events and this major series as well. Let's have a look at the calendar and see exactly where we're headed and what we're doing with regards to season 2022 Part A. Of course, we'll probably get 3 seasons in, knowing iRacing. So season 1 looks like that. And that's the analysis of it for you. That's the nooks and cranny. Tuesday, March 22 is launch night. That is, of course, tonight. Then Tuesday, June 7 will be the season finale. Now, you might recall last season, we had a 17-week opening season with a 1-week break thrown in just to give everybody a rest. Not this season. It's 12 weeks. It's short, sharp, and sweet, and it's every single Tuesday. But we end on the same corresponding Tuesday as we did in season 1 last year. Our race broadcast times, there's a little bit of variance there, and I'm sure most of you can appreciate where I'm going with the next point. 7:55 Australian Eastern Daylight Time tonight, 8:05, 8:05 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and then we go back to Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is good news for those of you there in Western Australia and the Northern Territory and in the 1910 Sleepy State. Slow and steady wins the race of Queensland, where it's an extra hour that you get to enjoy your evening and you don't have to rush getting home from work, your meals, etc. and so forth to be here, because we'll be starting an hour later into the evening. But for New South Wales, Victoria, same time, same place, same channel, 8:05. Our endurance races there will start at 7:30 essentially, and of course the rest of it is self-explanatory in terms of the race distance, the laps, the event formats. There'll be 8 sprint rounds. There'll be 2 super sprints, namely Long Beach and Oran Park. That will be actually a hell of a lot of fun. Oran Park super sprint format. And endurance races this season, a new venue for the first enduro. The Interlagos circuit is out. Road Atlanta is in. And of course, the season ends with a 250-kilometre race around Mount Panorama Bathurst. So that's all hugely exciting. 6 different countries will be visited during this campaign, including the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and also you've got in there for good measure Italy and Brazil. So we tick off all the Americas with the exception of Mexico, because there's no Mexico circuit on iRacing just yet, as well as Donington Park, which is the venue we visited last year. And in all of that, I mean, obviously Lime Rock Park, we haven't visited there for a long while. That'll be very interesting, over 66 laps. Long Beach is always a favourite. Long Beach and Oran Park for sprint rounds. Who thought that up there? That's very, very cruel. Motorsport's always a favourite. Interlagos turns on a cracker. Road America's fast and flowing, and Mount Panorama always delivers the unknown. So regular race distances will be 160 kilometres. Sprint, super sprint formats will add up to that. And of course, the Enduros will be 250 clicks. So that's the breakdown of the calendar. A few different start times there, as we say, but make note of that. You'll get notifications when we go live on your Facebook pages anyway, ladies and gentlemen. So obviously for tonight and our 2 endurance races, we're giving ourselves a half-hour lead-in before we get going with the racing. Every other week will be about 20 minutes before we go green. So, Matt Davis, your thoughts on that calendar? I mean, Winton's a venture into the unknown, and we'll focus on that in more detail in just a moment. Barber Motorsport Park we saw in Season 1 last year as well. Lime Rock Park, Oran Park, tight circuits. They'll throw up some carnage, no doubt. Long Beach is, from what I'm seeing there, the only street circuit this season. So I'm sure a few people will already be breathing a sigh of relief on that. And of course, then you finish with the big babies, the 6+ kilometre circuits that are Road American Bathurst. It's a very good calendar. Yeah,
no, very good, Colin. I'm just going to start with Dino and I had a bet last night as we just got off air that how long it'll take before you threw in a daylight savings slam to the Queensland government there, and it took you all of about 10, 11 minutes there.
Correct.
It was a little bit longer than what we thought. I actually thought I'd have to time in there, but no, this season's calendar between the Super Series is absolutely cracker. We actually have a super sprint round at Lime Rock Park. Yeah. So that's going to be an absolute cracker. A normal sprint round for the Super Series, though, that's going to be actually from the get-go. Cabo, it's going to be it's tight, it's short. It's going to be a lot of instances. I'm going to say, especially if we get a 30+ field within that. It's a very, very tight track. Going back to Long Beach, love that track. Road Atlanta for an endurance. That's an absolute cracker track. As you said, visiting 6 different countries throughout this next 12 weeks. The drivers are going to be moving out around quite a lot, and tracks that they all know by now.
Yep.
But obviously, Winton tonight, that's a brand new track for these guys. We're going to be seeing a lot of guys that we can already see in qualifying come off the track already. So it doesn't matter if you've put in 2 weeks or a month or whatever. This track's only been out for 2 weeks. So that's all the guys have had. They've been having to try and dial in setups for the track. Everything's fresh to these guys about Winton. They don't know how the cars are going to react. So that's going to add the extra challenge to start off this season. But as always, we always look forward to Bathurst. That's the big baby at the end of the season. That's what we always love and wait to see. And I can't wait to see who's going to be crowned champion after the next 12 weeks.
We're a third of the way through this qualifying session for those of you just joining us. 35 minutes this session, so we're a little bit more than a third of the way through. David Kirby, the early pace setter here. Now, this is a 2-part qualifying session. It'll be 15 minutes for Group 1 and then 15 minutes for Group 2. So even though that is a very impressive benchmark from David Kirby, 1 minute 19.51, Michael Angus, Cameron Jones, both out there as well. We haven't seen the heavy hitters take to the circuit just yet. We're going to bring you that session in full in just a few moments. Brian Borg, Rick Kuznetsov from the Gentleman's Sim Racing Club circles is where you'll remember his name if you've tuned in there in the past. Rainer Costello's in there, Jamie Dyke, Dylan Rudd, Hayden Sell, Sean McNamara, Rehan Leonard, Aaron Dodd, Dylan Pereira. That second half of the field is chock-a-block full of big names, which, I mean, it's going to make it all the more entertaining, that qualifying session of 15 minutes that they'll come out for in just a moment. But it's going to be interesting to see how David Kirby's 1 minute 19.51 stacks up against that, Matt.
Well, it's funny you say that, and it's funny how you say we've got a lot of heavy hitters down the still yet to come out, should I say. Last night we had a former champion, Jamie Davis. Now, it's a little bit hot and cold, but he was down the back of the pack last night. We know he's quick and we know he can be consistent, but being a new track, there was actually quite a number of fast guys that just couldn't get Winton to work for them at this stage. So we found a lot of guys down towards the back of the pack. And don't be surprised, even though they're the best of the best in the Super Series, don't be surprised to see just a couple of drivers that we know are quick for the likes of, who knows, for instance, Rehan Leonard, Rainer Costello, Sean McNamara. We know McNamara was a little bit slow in practice. So these guys are they're just taking it as they go. They're just going to try and get out there and get the first round of championship points underway. And then they're going to focus on the rest of the season where they know they've got setups for cars and everything's in the memory bank, and the muscle memory is there as well with, your accelerator pedal, your brake pedal, how far you can push the car and everything like that. And brake markers, they're all familiar with the brake markers there. So tonight's going to be very, very interesting to see who ends up where at the end of qualifying. and then more importantly, who's going to end up where at the end of the race as we watch one of the Century Motorsport teams push out of the corner. That's Cameron Jones, ladies and gentlemen. That just goes to show that, Cayman, how easy it is to come undone, especially through cleavage here at Winton Motor Park Raceway.
Exactly. We'll get back to cleavage in just a moment because we'll have a look at the track in more detail. But for context, because Matt Davis has already mentioned it, practice was topped by Cory Shepard, who proved very quick in the preseason test that we had here at this very venue last Tuesday night. Rick Kuznetsov, Rainer Costello, and Dylan Rudd with Brian Borg making up the top 5. 118.34 was the benchmark, so it tells you a 119.51 for David Kirby may not necessarily be the best time in the world, but again, we'll wait and see what happens when these guys come out onto the circuit in just a few moments, because the first session is done. The rest of the field is standing by to be unleashed in just a moment. Let's have a look at Winton Motor Raceway in more detail right now, ladies and gentlemen, because, by gee, this is one hell of a racetrack, and then we can get stuck into talking about qualifying. There it is for you. 12 turns, 3 kilometres. Pit lane speed limit 55 kilometres an hour. Race date today, Tuesday the 22nd of March 2022. 54 racing laps, which will equate to 162 kilometres. 44.4 litres is what they'll start with. They'll burn 2.4 a lap, so you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of 19, 20 laps before they'll even entertain the thought of coming into that first round of pit stops. Yeah, thank you, Matt Davis. So I'll crunch some more numbers there with regards to what it means for the back end of the race very shortly. 2 pit stops, we know that already. The tyre limit is 2. That's the set they start on and the set that's awaiting for them in pit lane. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. That sort of stuff hasn't changed from last season. The air temp there is set to 25 degrees, track temp 33. The wind speed heading in a southwesterly direction at a very nice 16 kilometres per hour, if you don't mind. No previous winner at this circuit in this Super Series, but of course David Nash holds bragging rights over everybody because he picked up the first win for our Super 2E Series here last night. Are you ready to rock and roll, Australia? This is going to be a hell of a lot of fun because this, as Matt Davis just said, is a venture into the unknown for the RSRA Super Series. And it happens every time iRacing launches a new circuit. People go very quickly about the way of gathering data and making setups and getting themselves into a rhythm map. But at the same time, it always throws up a couple of surprises, a bit of the unexpected, because you haven't had as much time to get warm and get used to it as opposed to any of the number of circuits that we're going to later in the season that we've all seen thousands of times before. Obviously, iRacing, an ever-evolving and growing platform. This series is ever-evolving and growing. No bigger test, I guess, for the paddock than being flung into the deep end without a life jacket first up for the new season. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. As a supercar circuit, I don't think Winton's the greatest. I think it's more suited to something like the slower cars, like the Mazda MX-5s or the Formula Vs. But that doesn't mean that we won't get good racing here. Yes, because of the narrow nature of the track and because of the way in which these cars are, overtaking might be the easiest thing here tonight. And we'll go into more detail on that a little bit later on. But racecraft and strategy are going to be what wins and loses this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Racecraft and strategy is a big one around Winton. The overtaking positions you mentioned, there's next to none. Mark Johansson, a good friend of ours from Saturday night, it's actually his home track, and he did mention if you can get the run out of 4 through 5, you can line yourself up through 6 to take a dive down into 7. So obviously, there's only real 3 key overtaking areas that you can get it done at. Adding that 4th one between 4, 5, and 6, expect to see maybe a few guys try and take the bite of the bullet and have a lunge down in there to try and get that spot or two. But it's very slim to none. It's very thrown into the deep end this for the first round. We only sprung this on the drivers, I believe, 2 weeks ago when the track first came out. The RSRA admin team really hustled along, and we got the votes together and said, you know what, it's all about challenging the drivers in the RSRA, and what better way to do it by throwing them a track that they've got no idea what's in store for them. They've got no setups, they've got no nothing for, and it's just going to show that they've had to spend quite a lot of time in it. They don't have that. I think we had a month lead up to the Red Bull Ring, where they were able to work for it. It was actually on the iRacing calendar for our series as well. So it sort of helped them a bit. They had the likes of some well-talented drivers like Madison Down that were able to put out videos as well. So it's really getting thrown in the deep end for these guys.
Certainly is. Now, I just want to go back and tidy up something that I didn't get on top of before the broadcast got underway. 44.4 litre fuel tank capacity. Divide that by 2.4 litres of burn per lap. Gives me 18.5. So that's going to actually make things rather tight tonight.
It actually, it was 22 last night when the boys started coming in.
So basically, that's going to be a full tilt run. But basically, on what you're saying there, Matt Davis, if 18.5 is a full tilt run, that's great. But there's a lot of opportunity to fuel save around here and stretch that out is basically what I'm gathering from what you're saying.
Yeah, you can sort of try and coast through 5 and 6, and maybe it's through 7, 8, 9, but quite a few big straights. You've got the Shannon Straight, the Falcon Straight, you've got the Kane Straight across the start-finish line, the BP Ultimate Straight as well, and not a lot of places where you can kind of lift off that bit earlier and try and coast it through. We know one big fuel saver is Sean McNamara. We know he's good with fuel saving in those numbers. Rian Leonage, another driver that can really drive to that number. He's got the likes of his crew chief, Lassus Leonage, former champion as well within the RSRA. He can fuel save and drive to that number, and he's hard to overtake as well, but he can pick his fights. So expect to see a lot of fuel saving tonight. Another driver that we should mention is Cory Shepard. He's a well-known driver within the V8 Supercar scene on iRacing. We know he's fast, and we know he can drive to any condition, and it went to show in practice how he was just so quick in practice. But there was some guys up there, Rudd, Costello, that were up there with him. So expect to see a newcomer to the series of Cory Shepard to be pressured by these what we call the veterans of the RSRA.
Cory Shepard and also Rick Kuznetsov, new names to this series. And I'm excited to see how both of them take on the likes of Rainer Costello, Dylan Rudd, and also, I guess, Rihan Leonage as the season goes on. And no surprise, straight off the top, Rick Kuznetsov third, Cory Shepard first. 1:19.0 for Shepard, 1:19.3 for Rick Kuznetsov as we get qualifying underway here at Winton. These guys have got another 11.5 minutes before the checkered flag flies at the end of 35. And then that way they'll return to pit lane. Race control will read them the right act, and then we'll get this 54-lap race underway, which, based on the mathematics and taking into consideration a couple of transits down pit lane, you're looking at about 70 minutes worth of racing here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it is a short circuit, it's got a very slow average speed compared to a lot of other circuits around it, so that will stretch race time out a little bit tonight. It's not dissimilar to the Hungaro Ring. Of course, the Hungaro Ring, a very slow track in terms of its average speed. So we'll wait and see what that means for race time here. And, of course, if we get safety cars and all the like as well, that will affect it too. Cory Shepard, already happy with how things are sitting. Back into pit lane. In fact, all the top 5 back into pit lane. Fifth actually is still David Kirby, so his time's actually held up fairly well for the moment. Aaron Dodd coming round onto the main straight now. Also the 957 on screen there. That is Sean McNamara.
That's Simon Chadwick.
Sorry, Simon Chadwick, my apologies. And Chadwick actually running wide off the circuit going into pit lane there as well. I always get the 9.5 boys mixed up, and I apologise. Of course, McNamara and Dylan Rudd come here with the target on their back, you could say, Matty Davis, because they were phenomenal in the Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000.
Yeah, those guys were unstoppable, and they really had the pace last season. Rainer Costello was there, missed a couple few races, but put the pressure on. Jamie Dyke, another one that was just that consistent finisher all season long, and ended up seeing himself up there with the guys as well. So expect to see a few names that we saw at the top of the calendar last season start to struggle when they try and adapt to new driving styles of the drivers that have come, the new driver caliber that has come in as well. So another hard thing for the drivers to learn as well is how everyone's going to race when you've got new drivers in. You've had the off season as well, so a couple of people may have changed up their driving style just a little bit, changed their tactics on how they attack and how they defend amongst the circuit. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the drivers manage that tonight and attack a new track for them.
Now, of course, in practice and qualifying, they usually can just come in and go willy-nilly free-for-all with regards to things like tyres. So that might explain why a few of them have already done a lap, come back in. The other thing that they'll be hoping to avoid is running into any sort of traffic. We're right on board here now with the 718 Cory Shepard off on yet another flying lap here. We're riding on board with him down through turn 3, up towards the right-hander at 4. And then a solid run out of here, as Matt Davis said, by care of Mark Johansson. You need to set yourself up nicely for 5, and he's done just that. Look at that, beautifully through there. Rides the curb, gets back on the inside for turn 6. Now we get into cleavage. 7, 8, 9. Tree corner, of course, there in the middle of cleavage at 8. Slowest points at the racetrack right here and now. Gets from one inside apex to the other and does so quite beautifully. Out to the outside and away we go. Up to the braking zone for the left-hander that brings them on to the back straight. Of course, this part of the circuit only added to the layout back in 1998. So it too, older than half of the competitors at the front end of town. But, of course, not as old as the original real estate. That's unfortunate for Shepard. He's not going to come around and finish the lap. But it's Shepard, Costello, Kuznetsov, Rudd at the moment, sitting 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're yet to see any real Hollywood numbers from the likes of Brian Borg and Rehan Leonage. But that will come. They've got only about 7.5 minutes now, Matt Davis, to get out there and cement their grid position. And as we said there earlier, by care of the fact, or by virtue of the fact that overtaking here is not the easiest thing to tick off, qualifying therefore becomes a hell of a lot more important.
Yeah, it really does, and it's good that we've split them up into the Q1 and Q2. Allow the drivers to get some clean real estate and clean air in front of them. But it's about another, I believe, might be able to get another 3 flying laps in there quick enough from now. So minute 20 a lap, we'll call the average on there. And Cory Shepard just goes faster again with a 1:19.09 in qualifying. Dylan Rudd is now up there with a 1:19.22. So Rudd now cements himself up in the second position there with 6.5 minutes to go. But the drivers don't really have long, only 15 minutes thereabouts. And once you get your outlap done, you're at about 13.5 minutes to go for qualifying by the time you start your first flying lap. So you may only get 6 odd laps in all up for the qualifying session here, Cabo, and it's going to prove tough and really put the pressure on for these drivers to do their best to get that number 1 lap that they can possibly get, to try and give themselves that best opportunity off the start line, because by the looks of it, we're going to be needing it with the likes of the 718 of Cory Shepard.
100%. We'll go through a little bit more with regards to race strategy, race information here as we edge closer to the end of this qualifying session, folks. And when we do that, we've got about 5 minutes there in which there won't be any cars on track with the exception of the safety cars. So plenty of time still to go for us to get you as prepared and up to speed as we can ahead of the start of the new season here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting right around Australia. And on that note, things like this don't happen without a very hard-working team, ladies and gentlemen, behind the scenes. And we've got, obviously, JP's punching the buttons for us again, but the series doesn't happen without the people that support it. So with thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana, Real Sim Racing Australia, FU Suicide, SimShed Broadcasting, and special shout-outs to Track Cams for Gourmet, SDK Gaming, Overpass Visuals in Latvia over there in beautiful old Europe, and of course the team at Sim Inc. as well. This is Tuesday Night Motorsport for the first time in 2022. Zach Caber, Matt Davis with you for the call. 54 laps ahead of us around Winton. 1:19.09 the time to beat for Cory Shepard, Dylan Rudd and Rainer Costello 2 and 3. Rick Kuznetsov ahead of the defending champion Sean McNamara. Then Aaron Dodd, David Kirby and Michael Angus were in Q1 there, Matt Davis, and they're still inside the top 10. So a little bit slower is what we take from that. The track conditions compared to what we saw in practice. Practice, the surface offering a little bit more, the track a little bit quicker, and now the temperature's warmed up a little bit and the pace has gone out of it a touch.
Yeah, I did call just a little bit before at the start of qualifying there that the track will heat up as the day progresses on, and it's always bound to happen. And between the two qualifying stages, the track temp hasn't gone up significantly what I thought it may have, which has really allowed it to be an even qualifying session, which is good. But it's gone up only by a couple degrees, but a couple degrees can change everything amongst those tires. It makes the tires warm up a lot quicker, so you've got to try and work out your tire pressures a lot more and anticipate for that tire temperature to come up and bring the KPA up as well. So it's proven difficult for these drivers to really get on top of it, but Cory Shepard just goes faster again, a 1:18.98, Zach Caban. So the first car into the 1:18s in qualifying.
Yep, not quite the Hollywood territory that we saw in practice, but still exceptionally quick, electrifying pace from Cory Shepard here in qualifying for the opening round of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries Tuesday Night Motorsport for you. Matt Davis and Zach Caban with you. If you're just tuning in for the first time, you haven't missed anything just yet. We've been on air for half an hour, but the race hasn't yet got underway. We will be bringing that to you in full, commercial-free and live. So 54 laps very shortly. The usual post-race show will follow. It'll be interesting to see how long we drag that out for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, only because it's the first one of the season. And as you know, Matt Davis, there's usually not as much in the way of talking points when we get to the start of a new season, because you've got no data to draw upon for any questions that you may ask for these guys. However, being a new circuit, I am going to be very interested to get everyone's views on it.
Yeah, well, JP's headphones aren't going to die tonight. He made sure to put them on sharp so we can go a bit longer in the post-race. Be good. But no, new track. There's going to be a lot of questions to ask these drivers. I tried to punch a few out last night, and to see, and everyone had the same response, really, about the new track. And it's fine. It's all about time.
100%. And I'm not even going to lie either, ladies and gentlemen. This is the other dig that I usually try and get in early when we're talking about Victoria. Have a look at that. They were talking earlier in the weekend when the Shannon's Nationals were coming out of Phillip Island about that they'd never seen such glorious, such a beautiful day at the venue. Same can be said for Winton. And the only reason for it is that the only mistake iRacing have made in launching the Winton racetrack now is that they haven't launched their rain server, their rain model at the same time. That would have been somewhat appropriate and, very, very nice touch and a little bit of a dig at Winton, but it would have been fitting.
Well, that means every time we go to Winton, though, to be pissing down rain. Exactly right.
And hey, it's all about the challenge. It's all about the challenge for the drivers. I'm all for that. It'd be very entertaining. No, let's straighten up here a little bit because the clock's about to hit 35 minutes, 45 seconds away from the end of the session. The checkered flag will fly. So the last hot laps are coming in at the moment. Cory Shepard's in the pits. He's locked and loaded. He's done. He's 2 tenths clear of Dylan Rudd. He's happy. Dylan Rudd is on a hard, fast lap right now. Can he get ahead of Cory Shepard? I'm hearing no. Rick Kuznetsov and Rainer Costello are next best. They're also on the approach to the line here. But I think Cory Shepard might have done enough to get it done here. And a quarter of a second is a huge margin. Rainer Costello's bailed out of it. He's done. We've got 2 minutes left now for these drivers to come around and take the checkered flag, but most of them are opting to head into pit lane. Dylan Rudd, the latest of those. Rick Kuznetsov, Rainer Costello, all in. So Cory Shepard has pole for the first round. of the RSRA Super Series with thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana. What about that? Well, to be fair, Matt Davis, we sat here last Tuesday night getting everything in order for this broadcast, and the guys had a pre-season test, for lack of better words, a chance to get familiar with Winton whilst we were doing our broadcast checks and everything else. And Cory Shepard obliterated the pack on the timesheets in the practice race. We knew he was going to be strong. He set out and maintained that dominance from last week. It'll be interesting to see if he can convert over 54 laps.
Yeah, he's a strong young driver. He's only young and like Tony Costello as well. He's not that old in age, so he really does give it to these older guys in the sim rigs, and I hear it within the speedway community as well. It's the young age, the fitness that these young guys have within the sim rig as well, and just their reaction times to be able to get it. And it showed at our state title where 3 young blokes were able to take out 1, 2, and 3, and just the older guys who were originally 1, 2, and 3 just said we don't have the energy anymore to be able to keep up with them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Shepard goes tonight in a full flight race. Starting off pole position, he's going to be able to get the jump if he can get those Dunlop tyres hooked up.
All right, let's remind everybody at home of where we're at. The playing field for tonight, it is Winton Raceway. There it is on your screen. 12 turns, 3 kilometres. We know all that information already. 55 kilometres an hour along pit lane is the pit lane speed. Now, remember, we have our own internal safety cars, so we're not relying on iRacing for the use of theirs. What we should point out too, incident points is something we haven't mentioned tonight, Matt Davis. They kick in at 16x and every 9x thereafter. So I'll be interested to see how stringent iRacing is with track limits and the like that trigger the 1x's and the 2x's and the like here at Winton, and just how much our competitors flirt with those throughout the course of 54 laps, because it is a circuit where, again, it's tight, so it's easy enough to put a wheel in the dirt here and there.
Yeah, no, it definitely is easy to put a wheel in the dirt, especially coming out of turn 3 to line yourself up for 4. And then through 5, it's very easy to run out wide as well. You don't want to get strung on the outside of the course around here either. It's very off camber through 3 and 4 there. So coming on the outside to be able to hold off and move there is going to prove very, very difficult tonight. And just a quick comment as well from Mark Hansen. It almost does always rain here. So we weren't wrong on that one.
I can vouch for that because I've been to Winton a few times and it's been about 50-50 wet dry.
But no, it's going to be a very, very interesting race once the flag drops tonight.
And the same can be said for hot and cold. 50-50 hot and cold. I've made the mistake of going there in winter a few times. Now, we're getting ready to rock and roll here, ladies and gentlemen. About 3 minutes until cars will be on the grid. Have you got a tip for me, Matt Davis?
No, actually. It's too hard to choose from, really. I mean, look, I'm going to say Cory Shepard, but it's going to be a very hard one to choose from.
Now, what was the feedback from the drivers last night with regards to tyre wear around here? Just quietly, I'm interested because obviously that might have it might play a role, I should say, in when some of these guys decide to come in and complete their second pit stop and take that fresh set of tyres.
Tyre wear's not too bad around here, actually. It's if they can look after them, keep the heat out of them, the tyres will last.
Right, yeah. Well, based on the numbers that we crunched there earlier, as Matt Davis said, some of these guys were able to get out about 22 laps in their first stint. If that's the case, then lap 32 will be the critical lap, but the absolute most critical lap is going to be lap 36 because you can come in, take the 18 and a half laps and get home. But remember, you've got to also have enough fuel to get home on the cool-down lap as well. So what that means is there's a great scope and a great range in the amount of laps that we could see that second round of pit stops play out, Matt Davis. It's exciting because when you look at it, Matty, the sometimes we see strategy sucked out of these races by way of safety cars or any number of different factors, or that the fuel burn's just too close for comfort, so everyone's pretty much on the same strategy. Tonight, we could see a mix of strategies by virtue of that fuel range being as spread out as it might be.
Yeah, no, it's if we can go safety car free, these guys are going to have to really try and fuel safe. If safety car does get called, which I hope it doesn't, but I hope it does at the same time to sort of bunch the field back up and give us a lot of nose to tail racing, side by side racing, door to door action when the safety car does come back out. But if we can go safety car free, these guys really are going to have to try and pick and choose when they want to push and go for those overtakes to make up those crucial positions.
All right, Daniel Stevens in the safety car for us tonight. He's out on circuit at the moment. He's about to return to pit lane, and these cars are about to line up on the grid. Probably an opportune moment for Matt Davis and yours truly to have a look at the grid here for you, ladies and gentlemen, because, actually, we won't be able to have a look at the grid itself just yet, but we can have a look at the qualifying results, if you don't mind, because that will tell you exactly what the grid does look like. But we might just hold off and run through the grid as is. There it is. So 4 Fords and 6 Holdens in the top 10. Cory Shepard and Dylan Rudd will share the front row. Rick Kuznetsov and, of course, Rada Costello will share the second row. Rehan Leonage flew under the radar there in the end and managed to come home 5th place. Aaron Dodd, Brian Borg, then Sean McNamara. Geez, he'd be a little bit disappointed with that, wouldn't he? McNamara only a half a second off pole, not even that, and boxed in at the outside of the 4th row here. David Kirby and Michael Angus will share row 5, the former teammates. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Davis will run you through rows 6 to 10 when the graphic uploads here for you. Of course, the session's clicking over. I can tell you that server time, it is 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time down there at Winton Raceway. So it's about 3 hours behind where we are at the moment, but it's going to be a twilight race. It's going to be a twilight race at Winton. Rows 6 to 10, Matt Davis, they are yours.
Row 6 sees Benny Morris lining up alongside Dylan Pereira there. Then you sorry, not Dylan Pereira.
Craig Schultz.
Craig Schultz, thank you. Then we got Dylan Pereira and Cameron Jones out of row 7. Tommy Freeman and Blake Delaney, row 8. Jamie Dyke, Mark Newton, row 9. Wade Sheedy, Simon Chadwick, row 10. Brendan Nitschke, Matty Scholes will occupy row 11. And row 12, we'll see Simon Butler and Brian Good line up next to each other. Okay, Bo?
Bruce Tunnock and Robert Crisdale from 13, Hayden Sell and Dina Leslie from 14, John Gillies and Stephen Banks from 15 make up this enormous field at Winton Raceway for the first round of the Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series in 2022. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen, for adventure into the unknown? Trigger points. Watch turn 1. Watch turn 3. This first lap could be frantic. The new season is go! Great launch from the outside from Shepard. Dylan Rudd as well has made a nice getaway, and Rudd from the outside will get down into the lead at turn 1. What a good start from the Bathurst 1000 winner. The field safely through without incident in the first corner. I'm very pleased to be able to report that as we make our way through turn 3 and 4 for the first time. New colours for Dylan Rudd, and they're serving him well already. Of course, Cory Shepard there in the green and white entry. Absolutely shot out of the water by Dylan Rudd off the start. A great launch from Rudd, and you mentioned it, Matt Davis. Cory Shepard, the pace in qualifying is one thing, but launching these cars is a completely different task.
Yeah, Shepard just couldn't quite get the clutch slip that he needed off the start line. Dylan Rudd, he's always been a weapon on the starts. Cory Shepard a little bit loose on those cold tyres coming out of turn 9 as they come down the Shannon Straight for the first time into turn 10 to line themselves up onto the Falcon Straight. And Rudd just capitalised on that. Shepard's just going to have to sit there and try and pick his moment when to come by. Rudd's just skipping out a little bit. He's out about a car and a half length as he comes into 11 and 12 right now. Brandon Costello starting to close up on Shepard now as well as Rudd comes across the line to start us on lap 2 at 54, ladies and gentlemen.
That was a very quick opening lap. No doubt about it. 1:23.28 from the standing start for Dylan Rudd, if you don't mind. Cory Shepard, Rainer Costello, 2 and 3. So a lot of movement on that opening lap, Matt, but it was only a case of up 1, down 1 through most of the top 10. Benny Morris, a big mover, up 2 positions at the expense of David Kirby, down to Blake Delaney charging from 16th up to 13th. And then further afield, Simon Vella and Bruce Tannock, 18th and 19th, respectively, up 5 and 6, respectively.
Yeah, a couple big movers so far, a bit further down the pack, but just goes to show this top 15 at the moment, very evenly matched on pace. It's red and yellow the whole way down to there, and it's only the start of the race. We're only lap 2 of 54, so this is going to start stretching out once the tyres get on, but it's going to be interesting how these guys manage tyres, as we see a little bit of gap opening up there about mid-pack. So that's going to the back of the field from, I believe it's back from about Craig Schultz, Cameron Jones area as well. So that's when they split the mid-pack there, and we start to see those guys battling out, trying to make their way through the field. Wade Sheedy and Mark Newton, big losers so far, down 10 and 12 positions respectively.
And then possibly run into trouble there on the opening lap or two. On to lap 3 we go. Through turn 1 and 2, you're riding on board with Dylan Rudd, looking back out towards Cory Shepard at this point in time. Rainer Costello, fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 19.41. So already the boys are around about the pace that we saw in Q1, not Q2, from Rainer Costello. And of course, an important thing to note that because we're heading towards the back end of the day, the track temperature will start to dip the closer we get to 7 o'clock. Of course, we're at 5:30 track time when this race got underway. And that track temperature will start to die down a little bit, as will the ambient, as we edge closer to the end of this race. So the times may well heat up once they get onto that fresh set. What I also want to point out at this point in time is you have a look at the onboard shot from Dylan Rudd. We've been on board with him for most of the lap. Look at how tight it is. First, second, third, fourth. Rick Kuznetsov within striking distance of Rainer Costello. Now, track position here is so crucial, so critical. It's king in this game. It's the trump card in your game of poker, if you like, ladies and gentlemen, because as you can see right here, all these guys are on the same pace, and Cory Shepard, even though he was the pole sitter, is boxed in at the moment. He's not been able to find a way by Dylan Rudd. It may be a case of he'll struggle to, which is why that pit sequence is going to be so important, Matt, throughout not only pit stop 1, but also pit stop 2, to see if there's any jockeying and changing of positions. And that's usually where these races can be won and lost.
Yeah, well, so far the top 20 separated by only 1 second in pace. That just goes to show how close the racing is. That's going to fluctuate a bit more as we see, because Netstoff open up a little bit of a gap now to Dodd. That's allowing the top 4 to break away here. And once we come onto the pit lane, that's where it's going to be do or die. Who's going to have the courage to throw it down into pit lane, not lock up and make that right-hander and get down to the control line? And if they're all in the same vicinity there, it's going to be do or die. Who can have the shortest pit stop time but take on the most amount of fuel in that time too?
Back down to turn 11 they come. Through the 90-degree right-hander, then back through the slightly tighter turn 12 and round onto the main straight. Across the line we go. Rudd, Shepard, Ben Costello and Kuznetsov. Aaron Dodd is slotted into 5th place. There's a guy that raced without a heck of a lot of luck last year. We'll wait and see what he brings to the table in 2022. On the run up the short chute, past the trackside commentary box and up to turn 3. I say that because I've been up and down those stairwells quite a number of times over the years, ladies and gentlemen. It is a fair workout when you've got to get to the toilet on the 1st floor and the commentary box on the 3rd floor. Let me tell you, ground floor, 2nd floor, I should say. Now, Hayden Sell, we're being told, is off the racetrack. I'm sure we'll have a replay of that for you momentarily. He's in pit lane, in fact, right now at the end of lap 4. So we're on lap 5, not even a tenth of the way through this one just yet, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what happened to Hayden Sell. Yeah, he's got some damage there on the side of the car. So he has had a rub with the wall or another car somewhere along the way. And no, just having a look here. I'm reading on our iRacing server that he has been black flagged, Hayden Sell. So that will have something to do with it as well. And the other point of interest there is that if it is damage, Matt, no fast repairs in this series. No get out of jail free card.
No, I think that black flag might actually explain why Sheedy and Newton might be down so far as well. So they might have been tangled up with those boys at some point off the start. So might be able to scramble up a replay of what happened to Hayden at some point within the race. But if we don't, I think we're just going to have to go with a little bit of contact was made somewhere. There's Aaron Dodd's off the track as well. He's just dropped a couple positions. He's down 3 so far. 3 positions down, 4 now to Dodd. 5, 6, 7. He's down behind Tommy Freeman now.
Dropped down to 7/8 position. He's dropped 11, and this is how coming out of turn 2 is okay. It'll be on the run between 3 and 4, or maybe the exit of into 3. Locked it up into 3, got it in the dirt. Got it into the gravel, then ran through the grass and back onto the racetrack. And given that the field's still relatively bunched up, Matt, that was always going to be costly for him. And still, he couldn't get it on the racetrack through 4. He had to rejoin on the run between 4 and 5.
Yeah, it's very, very costly there for Dodd. And it just goes to show how hard it is to get back on track. The camber on the outside of 3 and 4, you could see it in those images right there. Thanks to Track Camps May. How much camber falls away to the edge of the track there, and once you're out there, you're in no man's land, as Mark Johansson likes to call it, as Cory Shepard still treasuring Dylan Rudd here as they come through 3 and 4 for yet another time, and edging ever so closely, but Shepard struggling to find a place to overtake.
Exactly. Through they come again. The old tagline, the nation's action track. And it's certainly delivering a fair bit of that in the opening 7 laps here at Winton. And Shepard's all over the back of Rudd now, seriously applying some pressure. And while ever Rudd's at the front, and Shepard's just nipping at these heels and unable to find a way through, it's going to keep Costello and Kuznetsov in the mix here. Look at them latching on, wanting a piece of the action. Shepard having a look down the inside, then Rudd closes the door. Again, 11, 12, 1, your best overtaking opportunities around this circuit. You've got to be a brave boy to throw it in anywhere else. Onto the main straight we come. Shepard to the outside, then he tucks back in. And that's the other thing too, Matt, because the straights aren't terribly long here, no real benefit in slipstreaming and drafting.
No, not at all. The really only main part you get a slipstream is maybe down the main straight into turn 1, but it upsets the car quite a lot. You've got to really dive on the brakes on the inside there, the marbles there, and we watched quite a few drivers last night just overcook it. To see the 897 of Hayden Sell with car contact on the 605. So that's with Matty Scholes on lap 3 there. So that's where Hayden Sell come unstuck. But we see quite a lot of number drivers coming into turn 1 just a little bit too hot and going for a shortcut through turn 2 and having a mow of the grass.
And actually, to be fair, well done to the team at iRacing and at Winton Motor Raceway. Obviously, some good communication beforehand to ensure that the track was finally cut and mowed before they arrived to scan the circuit. Out of turn 10 on the run up towards 11. Hello to all of our friends down there at Winton Motor Raceway, the Benella Auto Club. As I say, I was very lucky to go and serve as a trackside commentator at several of their events between the end of 2012 and the end of 2015. Lovely, lovely part of the world. Freezing cold in winter, but lovely part of the world. Through they go
Melbourne.
again.
That's Melbourne 4 seasons, 1 day, Zach.
Exactly right.
Gavin.
And of course, it's only 2 hours from Melbourne, let's be perfectly honest. So,
yeah, it's only 3-4 hours from my own home as well. 3, 4, 5 hours, something like that. So
if ever I get called down there for a work gig again, it's no longer a drive from Bathurst to Benalla, it's a flight from Brisbane to Melbourne. And then a trip on through. Oh, trouble! Rainer Costello's in the grass at turn 5. We've got an onboard shot here with the 61, but Rainer Costello's put it in the grass and has dropped a few spots. Rehan Leonards moves up to 4th. Sean McNamara to 5th. Brian Borg, Michael Angus have all moved up, and Rainer Costello slots back into 8th. This is how it happened. Normally my attention is on what's going on the screen there on our timing screen, but I had the iRacing server open and I saw it from the... He got the exit at 4 and then got the outside at 5. It just flung him across the racetrack. That caught my eye, and with good reason too, because that's one of the guys that you look at the start of the season, and we didn't really have a huge chat about this, that he is a championship contender. He's hungrier for it than ever before, Matt, because of how last year played out so badly for him.
Yeah, he is very, very hungry. And Mark mentioned to us as well, it's the sand at the end of these ripper strips right there. You can see him just kick up a little bit of dust on the exit. The drive isn't there, but every time the car hits it, it divots out, divots out, divots out. And if you catch a little bit too much of it, as we just saw with Reina Costello, it just kicks him off to the side of the track. And iRacing's done a really, really good job at simulating that sand trap bunker, should I say, at the end of those ripper strips, to be able to upset that car as much as it did Reina Costello's there. And just unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it. And you can see it there, those camera angles, that grass field just cambers away from the track. So once you're out there, that grass just wants to drag you to the infield further and further, and it's really hard to get back on the racetrack.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the first and if that's not the last driver we see getting caught up by all of that sand at the exit of 4 there throughout the course of the night. I reckon that he'll be the first of a few that comes unstuck, put simply because, again, it's the new racetrack. It's all the pressure and the added intrigue that goes with it. That's why we're glued to the edge of our seats. We hope you are as well around Australia. Look at Shepard now clawing up onto the back of Dylan Rudd. The end of lap 10. On to lap 11 we go. This will be 1/5 race distance for you, ladies and gentlemen. 13.5 minutes on the clock already. Shepard having a look. Unable to get away by Rudd just yet. But to be fair, even on circuits where there are plenty of overtaking opportunities, Matt, we've seen this in the past where the drivers are happy to just latch on to the leader and follow for that first stint, let's say. And then they start playing their tactics and their games, and then we see some toing and froing. But I'm not real surprised that it's got that follow the leader mentality at the moment, because these guys are just easing into it and feeling their opposition.
Yeah, like I said, it's new track, new drivers. The off-season, we've had a very, very long off-season. Yeah, these guys have raced each other in the officials, but they take the officials just a little bit differently to how they take the league racing sometimes. And they don't really play their cards in the official when they've got the likes of their competition that are joining in as well. So they really do try and play it safe. They've got race control as well, a live race control as well, Cabo, that really plays in the back of your mind when you are out on track. But a lot of these guys have adapted that and taken that over to the official sessions as well of iRacing, where they think if you can practice it in the iRacing officials, it's going to become second nature to you eventually when racing the RSRA, and you just take that little bit more of a precaution. So, but trying to weed out the new drivers, how their tactics are going at the moment. I know Cory Shepard likes to lead the race. I know he's very quick once he's got some open track. So he's going to be having a little bit of a bad time, getting a little bit upset right now, sitting behind Rudd. He's also, I reckon, trying to plan out how Rudd handles his car, where he puts it on track. These guys have raced in many other series together in iRacing as well. But again, a lot different in a series race and an official round.
We've just got 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, and we're only just over 15 minutes into this opening race of the season for you, ladies and gentlemen. 12th lap of 54 at Winton. And if you want to play the reverse strategy tonight as well, Matt Davis, one thing that we haven't spoken about just yet.
Yes.
If you want to play the reverse strategy, there is the opportunity to if you've got your calculations right, and 22 is where it's at, or even 21.20, you can start to think about pitting now and just maybe get out of that traffic.
Yep, definitely. You can try and pit now, get out of the track. Track position is key. If you can get some clean air into this bonnet and get rid of that aero wash, the car handles a lot nicer. You don't have the added pressure. You just punch out your own lap numbers. You're in your own headspace. But doing that, once the other pit stops come out, you're going to have the chance of bumping into some very, very heavy traffic.
So that's just to clarify as well, that penalty for Hayden Sell was from previous contact, folks. That was, of course, it wasn't a secondary penalty that was showing on your screen there. It was actually the already noticed damage and contact. That was the reason for the pit stop. The race control announcement came through a little bit late. And I just caught a comment on one of our socials that was verifying that from race control, from the great man, Jonathan Bay. So, yes, if you're wondering why the penalty came through after he'd been to pit lane, that was why. So I just wanted to clarify that. Hayden hasn't been in trouble twice, only once, and you wouldn't want to be in trouble with race control twice on the opening night of the season because it sets a rather bad precedent, I would think.
Yeah, it puts a little bit of target on your back with race control, but it's good to see the Chief of Fuel, Jonathan Bain, back in the booth for 2022. And we know he's a fair steward in the race control room. He doesn't take none of that nonsense really, and straight and fair, straight to the point. And the drivers really respect him as well, which is good to see. But the drivers are respecting all the race control staff as well, and obviously none of these races are able to be done without him, without our safety car driver either. We have a live safety car, not iRacing safety car as well, Cabo.
Yep.
So obviously we need a steerer for that, as we're on screen right now with Dylan Pereira. Let's just hope that Dan Stevens, the new safety car driver for this season, doesn't do himself a Lee Davis and go for a mow across the grass.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just catching up on a couple of things here too, folks. Tom Freeman has got out of the traffic. He's come into pit lane and pitted early, so lap 13. He's just come in last time by the line and gone split back to 30th in the order. What should also be noted is for Hayden Sell, the fact that he's had to make that trip down pit lane and hasn't had a safety car to do him any favours, and he's still got those 2 pit stops to come. It's going to be an exceptionally long night for him at the office because...
Oh, Simon Chadwick off track.
Yep, Simon Chadwick's off circuit. I'm watching him plummet down our order at the moment. He was involved, I think, with Bruce Tunnock. I'll have a look at that momentarily. But yeah, it's going to be a very long night for Hayden Sell, given the lack of overtaking opportunities around here and the fact that when you're off sequence with everybody else and you're not going to get an opportunity to catch it up, you basically have done yourself an injustice. Chadwick and Tunnock gone.
Oh, that's going to be a very tough call. I think Tunnock might have just turned down.
I don't envy race control this early in the season, having to adjudicate on things like that, but at least it'll ensure that they're sharp for the later rounds of the championship because they've got some early practice on the board. Now, have a look at this. Have a look at this again. This is the replay. No, sorry, we will get the replay back for you, but in the meantime, here's the lead pack. This is, of course, Dylan Rudd and Shepard. And,
top 3.
Of course, Kuznetsov and Leonage has latched onto them as well. John McNamara sitting 5th. Here's a replay. This is from on board with Bruce Tunnock. Matt Davis, talk us through this.
Tunnock just coming down to turn 11. He's on the outside. He knows Chadwick is there. Lines himself up in the corner.
Bang.
Very hard to tell from that angle, though. Very hard to tell from that angle where Chadwick was on the car. It looked like Chadwick was up far enough, though, to class that as the move was on. Bit of a late dive from Chadwick as well, but the move was definitely on. He was there. He had him lined up for quite some time. So let's get another proper look at this one. Maybe on board with Chadwick right now. This will be able to tell us a little bit more. Here we go. Chadwick's lined him up. He's had a little bit of a slipstream. Lined him up. He's about a car length back. Hard on the brakes. You can see how late Chadwick was. He was pulling the car up, and he's right up on the driver's door.
Bang.
Bang. There it is.
Yeah,
so, right on the driver's door. The move was on. I reckon that's all over. Tannick's fault right there. But race control, definitely having a good hard look at that one.
Yeah, the move was on, absolutely, but it was off as soon as Tunnock shut the door. But unfortunately, when Tunnock shut the door, it was too late to shut the door. He missed his opportunity to shut the door, I think. Is the way I'm looking at that one anyway. Back we go. Some more action here further afield. That is the 56 on screen.
That's Rainer Costello.
Yep.
Remember,
and that's on the back.
Away from the 44.
Yeah, so that's going to throw a few of us, not just those of you watching at home, but those of us in the booth as well, because he's in the 56 and now having a lunge down the inside, not going to get it done. Trying to make a move on Michael Angus at the moment. And this is for 7th position in the motor race. Remembering we haven't come to pit lane as yet. We're at the end of, we're on lap 17 right now. So 18.5 was the fuel burn if you were going hell for leather and going on a qualifying run. So we're expecting pit stops anywhere between that the end of lap 19 and the end of, as Matt said, lap 22 there. Because that was, we're getting the good thing about having the main course on the Tuesday night as opposed to being the leading race in the week with the Supercar on the Wednesday night. So the good thing about having them on the Monday night is that we can take all that data that Matt and the boys gather there on a Monday night, Dino and the crew, and bring it to Tuesday night, and we get a bit more of an insightful, educated guess on what's going on before it actually happens.
The tables have turned a little bit. I used to take 100%. The inside from you guys and bring it over to the Wednesday night, but we've done a little bit of switcheroo now. I just want to comment as well. I'm not sure if it's obviously first race nerves or anything for Costello, but
Michael Angus is in pit lane as well, so Ronnie Costello has been able to get through into position number 7. Released. As Michael Angus goes into pit lane. Go for it, mate.
Oh, here we go. Car contact on the 957. So that's Simon Chadwick. So there we go. Bruce Panic pops drive-through penalty, ladies and gentlemen. The 1, 2, 3. Drive-through penalty for the contact on Simon Chadwick. There's what we just watched on the replay. Just want to mention, Cabo, unlike Rainer Costello to be this conservative, I think we know how he, as soon as a mistake is made or something like that, runs out like a bat out of hell. He's unstoppable. He's a man on a mission, and is a little bit conservative tonight. I'm not sure if it's the first round blues or if he's just trying to make that consistent championship run to the end of the season where he can stay competitive throughout it.
Have a look at this. We've got a huge gaggle of cars.
Team boss now as well.
So this again just highlights, yes, we've got a lot of battle packs and a lot of cars following in close succession. Not much in the way of overtaking. Oh, hang on. Dylan Rudd, Rick Kuznetsov in pit lane for you, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're seeing pit stops at the end of lap 18. So 18's a critical number. 36 gets them home to 54, but they've got to get 19 laps out of that last stint, Matt, because they've got to get to 54, and then they've got to get back to the pit lane under their own steam.
Yeah, they do. This is a release Cory Shepard now at the front of the field. So Cory Shepard's really going to be on the power to make up this time. We know he was right up on the back bumper of Dylan Ruddy, so Rudd's going to have a crucial stop right here. He hit his marker bang on. Couldn't get it any more perfect than that. Costello in as well. There we go. Rudd gets a clean getaway. So does Kuznetsov. Didn't see what Rayner got there. Pit
lane exceptionally busy in all of that, Matt.
Very, very busy. Very busy indeed.
Good half a dozen, maybe even a dozen drivers came in
half
that
the field
round.
Easily. Top 15, I reckon, came in.
I mean, we've still got a couple of guys that were leading the pack beforehand. Cory Shepard's still out there. He's obviously hoping to do the overcut on Dylan Rudd. Rehan Leonage, we know that he always plays a different strategy to those around him. He got very good at that last year, and still he goes on, whereas Cory Shepard comes to pit lane, I think it is. Yes, he is. Cory Shepard's in. Rehan has actually followed him in as well. So Leonage has gone into at the end of lap 19. Shepard and Leonage to pit road. Pereira, Delaney look like they're following in as well, and Craig Schultz too. So the top 5, they stand at the moment, all into pit lane. Long pit lane here at Winton, and a slow pit lane as well, 55 kilometres an hour. Just let that sink in for a moment. And the end of lap 19 for you. Brenton Nitschke showing he's off track as well, boys. Brenton Nitschke's had a moment down at turn 11.
I think that was pit lane.
There he is, limping around the outside there. He's got back on. Not ideal, though, to have an incident, a run-off on the run into pit lane. We've seen it happen a few times already. Shepard's already in and out and gone. Dylan Rudd's going to get him, though.
Capitalised on him.
So no change to the order. Rick Kuznetsov is still slotted in 3rd place, but now right on the tail of Shepard, who has to defend here on the run up to 3. Shepard goes a little bit narrow to 3 to hold Kuznetsov at bay. And brilliant from Dylan Rudd, who's given himself a little bit of breathing space. What was interesting there, Cory Shepard, 2 seconds slower in pit lane than everybody else. There's the balance.
And don't forget as well, Kuznetsov and Shepard, they are actually teammates. So these guys are going to be working together right now. Shepard took on just a little bit more fuel than Rudd. So that just goes to show if Shepard didn't take on that little bit of extra fuel, what would that mean to the race? Would that mean that he may have just gotten out in front of Rudd? Because we know he put in a very, very quick lap time last time around.
It's going to be very critical this second round of pit stops. I know we're still, about, what are we going to say, about 26 or 7 minutes away from that now. But
yes,
at the same time, cannot wait to see how it plays out. Tantalising prospect, because that could be where the race is won and lost. Given how little overtaking, how little movement we've seen in the field thus far. It's been mistakes that have brought people undone.
Yeah, definitely. It can, just those tiny little 1% of mistakes can really bring the drivers undone. We saw it last night. Sebastian Vandal, instead of just missing the state, and mind you, it was a very minute infringement on pit lane where half the car just overlapped the iRacing safety car, and iRacing deemed that, which is fair, and it was a very, very fair call where iRacing, our race control deemed that as a pit lane infringement. So those little 1%ers, and there we go, the pit lane infringement already, the 208.
So that is 208.
That's Craig Schultz. That's Craig Schultz. He should know better as well. So.
Absolutely, he should.
Benny Morris coming up.
Have a look at Benny
Michael
Morris.
Angus. Oh, very big lunge into turn 3. Made it work.
That's a big send, and an impressive one at that, to be fair.
That's a Costello send almost.
That's a great send. Up into 8th for Benny Morris. Michael Angus back to 9th. Tom Freeman rounding out the top 10. Craig Schultz getting whacked across the knuckles. He should know better than that. He's had enough experience in this series from both sides of the fence.
Chief Steward on Tuesday. Sorry, not on Tuesday nights. He's Chief Steward on Monday nights. Exactly. So he should definitely
do as I say, not do as I do, I think is what he'll be saying from now on.
But that's what I mean. It's those little 1%ers, and I can put some money on it right now that Schultz would have been all in the right. It just would have been a slight lapse in concentration, and half the car would have overlapped. Instead of taking one pit lane, pit bay on the exit, you've got to take one in and one out of your pit bay, and it would have gone, you may have just gone 1.5 on the exit, or maybe 1.5 in. So very hard at Winton to mark and to dissect where these pit bays are. But the garages do have those blue lines on the outside of them, which race control will be looking at. There is a big number of race control staff on board for us for the Super Series, which is great to see. And obviously these guys, they're all volunteers to it. They're doing it off their own back, and it's what makes these races run so smooth. If I can get the words out correctly. Yep, there we go. Exactly. The first fumble of 2022.
There'll be a few more where that came from.
Definitely will be.
We're riding on board with Brian Borg. We're all over the back of Sean McNamara at the moment, to the point where you can visually clearly see the paintwork on the 9.5 SimSport entry. You can read the sponsor's name quite clearly when you're riding on board with Brian Borg there to turn 1 on lap 23. So edging close to the half race distance, 5 laps away from that marker. We've already been racing for 30 minutes. We're into the 31st minute of play. And that gives you an indication that, it's going to be a very long race here at Winton tonight, in excess of around 70 minutes. But again, as we go to circuits with higher average speeds, that race time will be a little bit faster, and we might be able to crank it up within the hour, which means we get an extra bit of time in the post-race show. Now, I'm just getting a message through my ear about, I think it was Benny Morris. He's the fastest man on the circuit at this point in time. Apologies, that was just coming through a little bit glitchy, so I didn't quite hear it first time round. Benny Morris, fastest man on the circuit at the moment, 1 minute 20.08 last time round. Everybody else in the 20.2s or the 20.4s at this point. And Dylan Pereira, a 1 minute 19.93. He's just gone through faster than anybody last time around. So the pace not there in the circuit at the moment, but Pereira's finding something that the others aren't. So there he is, and he's looking the goods. Is Pereira chasing Freeman and Angus at this point in time. It's a three-way fight for ninth. They come back across the start-finish line once more, on to lap 24. So Cory Shepard is right on the toe of Dylan Rudd here as we go back to the leaders. Shepard applying all sorts of pressure to Rudd. He's gapped Kuznetsov, Rehan Leonage in there fourth. And to be fair, I felt sorry for Rehan Leonage last year, Matt, because, I mean, he came so close. And obviously it didn't fall his way on 1000 Sunday. We detailed that in depth on the day. And for an 11-year-old, as he was at the time, to do what he was doing, it was just setting the sim racing world alight. Now, he's a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit more mature. But in saying that, the heavyweights have come to town. We've got a couple of new names here that are going to make it even more difficult for him to achieve all the feats that he ticked off the career achievement list last year.
Yeah, he's really, really taken the iRacing world by storm, this young man. And it's only 100 days ago that we were talking to him, and he was so well spoken. And I'm yet to see how much that 100 days has made him mature. We know he gets more mature as the days go on, and it's almost like you were talking to a grown adult that just hadn't hit puberty just yet. It was just the way he conducts himself with his racecraft and how his interviews are. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and the heart breaks for him with how close he came last season to claiming that #1 spot. But he's holding on to some guys here that are that tier higher again within the sim racing world, and he's not letting them go without a fight. He's only 8/10 away at the moment from Rick Kuznetsov, and just the further, I was about 1.2 seconds away from Cory Shepard, who's now all over the back of Dylan Rudd yet again, and not letting him go. These guys are just trading times every single lap. Rudd goes faster, Shepard goes faster, Rudd goes faster. It's just, this is going to be a competition that I think is going to be going on for the next 12 weeks.
It's going to be a fantastic season if what we're seeing tonight is any guide as to the sort of entertainment and exhilarating excitement we're in for across the course of the next few weeks. There's a move down on the inside. This is extremely tight racing. Rainer Costello's in the thick of this. Brian Borg gets down his inside, gets him back. Borg is now hung out to dry. Costello's going to get back down on the inside on the run to turn 1. And look at Benny Morris wanting a piece of this as well. Costello gets through and comes contact. Oh, contact Morris and Borg, and Borg's been hung out to dry. Oh, no! Benny Morris has gone through and crashed out of the race in spectacular fashion. And that has been an enormous, disaster, for lack of better words, for Rainer Costello and for Brian Borg. And as we say that, Rehan Leonage has had to lose around cleavage as well. It's all gone off at Winton in the blink of an eye here. Big send down the inside from Rainer Costello. That was beautifully done. He covered Borg off magnificently to make sure that he was going to have the inside running on the run up to turn 3. That was critical. That was very smart racecraft from Costello. There's the contact, Morris on Borg. Morris was trying to capitalize on what Costello had already done and shove Borg back 2 positions. That was unfortunate for Borgie. And then Morris has had a brake failure or something there and just catapulted off the circuit into the sand trap and into the wall. This is going to hurt.
A safety car, actually. That might bring out the first safety car of the race because they need to get a car cleared off track.
We'll wait and see. I haven't seen where Benny Morris has slipped to in all of that, if he's still in the wall.
He's still in the wall. He's not circulating at all.
Yep. So that may well trigger a course car. You're right. And we're right on half race distance. We're at lap 27. This time by the line gets us to halfway. 75% race distance tonight, which matters with regards to the classification, ladies and gentlemen, will be 41 laps. Got to go the north side of 40 and a half. Oh, that's I really feel for Rainer Costello in all of that. Just he got absolutely poleaxed through no fault of his own.
No, I feel for him. He got the move done. Something's happened to Rudd as well. Rudd's back in third position.
Yeah, Aaron Dodd's off the road as well right now, so there's all sorts of carnage unfolding here. Not sure what's happened to Dodd, not sure what's happened to Rudd, not sure also what happened to Rehan Leonage, because he had to lose through cleavage whilst we're having a look at the replay of the Morris Borg and Costello incident. So it's all going to hell on a Tuesday night. Cory Shepard leads Rick Kuznetsov by 2.3 seconds. Dylan Rudd is now behind Kuznetsov. That was very well picked up by our producer, JP. Oh,
Costello, he's got steering damage.
Yeah, this is a rough night at the office for Rainer Costello. It's going to be what, and that's the other thing too, Matt. He's now got to stay out there and try and persevere with it, and try and limp this thing home and get as many points as he can, because there's no second chances in this championship. There's no drop rounds. Every point counts. And we knew that Winton was going to be one of those rounds that threw the cat amongst the pigeons. But it's thrown a spanner in the works as far as Costello's concerned. Also, you could say the same for Brian Borg. He wouldn't have been expecting to get poleaxed the way that he did, but he looks to be rolling along unfazed, undamaged after that incident, but still sixth position's probably not where he wanted to be. Sean McNamara, however, just by minding his own business and staying out of trouble, he's got up into fourth place, gained 4 spots, and we've hardly talked about him all night.
McNamara's capitalised on something that's happened at the front of the field. Leonage back to fifth, Rudd into third. Can't find a replay on that one.
No.
Costello's finally got some front end damage to his car. That's very, very clear to see after that incident with Morris. It's plugging in the back of my head right now, Cabo. What in the world would have happened to Morris? I don't know if that was a stuck throttle or he just forgot his brake mark or what, but it just did not look like he was stopping.
Yeah, no. I'm just getting a memo up on the iRacing server here that says that he's dropped due to packet loss. So he's had an internet connection failure, which may well go a long way to explaining exactly what happened there at turn 3. What a wretched time to have that happen. A, if you're Ben Morris, and B, if you're anyone around Ben Morris. I mean, we talk about the sim racing world and the technical failures of the sim world being the mechanical failures of the real world, right? And that just goes to prove it. Because if that had been a brake failure for Benny Morris, it would have still been curtains for Rayner. And it still would have been curtains for poor old Brian Borg. So those guys have been caught up as innocent bystanders inadvertently. They have to soldier on with the damage, whereas Benny Morris, well, his night's done. And if it wasn't done because of the packet loss, it was going to be done because of the way in which he plowed into that wall. Yeah,
no, definitely. I think that explained why the safety car hasn't been called. Benny Morris obviously is disconnected at some point once he's left the track, which is unfortunate. It's shame that he didn't disconnect a couple seconds earlier prior to hitting Rainer Costello. But the move was definitely on there with Borg. You can see he had control of the car. But then after that, just, unfortunately, some form of packet loss came through. And that's the joys of internet, ladies and gentlemen, where the U-picks of the world, as we're going to get the first mention of it in 2022, aren't always the trustworthy ones. So I've experienced, Cabo's experienced, JP has experienced it as well when the storms flow through the top end of Queensland there. So it's a big unfortunate event, but the racing does go on. Shepard is now your new race leader and pulling away at a rapid rate of knots.
And one of our comments on social media verifying that as well, thanks to Luke, who let us know that Benny's screen froze and just booted him. So that would explain all of that carnage. I mean, Ben's had his fair share of moments across the last 12 months. That one, though, totally beyond his control. So nothing he can do about that. And we've often said it, Matt Davis, first world country, third world internet. You go to regional parts and it's fourth world. That proves it. You pick. One day we'll be on air at a broadcast time in which we are allowed to explain exactly what UPIC means. But for the moment, we'll just have to leave it as the acronym and let you use your own imagination to work that one out. In the meantime, yeah, it's been deemed a racing incident, and understandably so. As frustrating as that will be for Reina Costello. In the meantime, we continue on here. Let's try and make sense of what's going on. This is Cory Shepard.
Rudd.
And this is Dylan Rudd. So this is what's happened to Dylan Rudd. This was Cory Shepard getting by on the inside to turn 3, and nicely done. So that was Shepard going by, and does Rick Kuznetsov capitalize on
a little bit?
So, no, he's done almost exactly what Reina did, except one corner earlier. And there goes Rick Kuznetsov right around the outside. Is there a touch?
That's that run that I'm talking about. That's that run.
Oh, there's the touch. There's the touch.
Rudd.
Leonage and Rudd. So Leonage was trying to capitalize in the same way that Kuznetsov had just done and brought himself unstuck. No post-race penalty is going to be applied there to car number 43 for Benny Morris for the car contact. So he's going to still get a whack across the knuckles, even though it was a packet loss issue. In the meantime, let's have a look as we rejoin live pictures here.
Jones, I believe.
Jamie Dyke, yeah. So Jamie Dyke, one of those guys that we haven't spoken too much about tonight. Jones up on these
Bella.
Oh, sorry, Vella. Yeah. So the teammate of Cameron Jones up on the outside trying to make a move there. So
Jamie
Jamie
to paint their mirrors.
Yeah, these guys are uncharacteristically lower than you'd expect them. Jamie Dyke particularly down in 14th place.
Yeah, start of the season for Dyke. He's not always the strongest at the very first race, but as the year goes on, he gets quicker and quicker. Obviously, Christmas break and everything, you take some time off, spend it with the family, and you concentrate on work for the first couple of months of the year. But now that we're back into full swing of racing, don't be surprised to see Jamie Dyke slowly creep up the timing tables.
Good morning also over there in the US of A to Jeff Eddy. They've just gone into that progressive and civilized concept known as daylight saving over there. So, for Jeff Eddy, it's only I'm not sure which part of the states he's in, but it's only 15, 16 or 17 hours or 18 hours behind.
Well, Circuit of the Americas is his home track,
Texas. So that means it's 16 hours behind us. So when the broadcast hits 9:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, it'll be a crisp 5:30 a.m. over there as they head towards summer. They're in the middle of spring there at the moment. Thomas Freeman into the pit lane to commence the second round of pit stops here at Winton, ladies and gentlemen. Winton Motor Raceway, iRacing's newest venue, Australia's 4th on the platform, throwing up one heck of a season opener in the RSRA Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries on the platforms of SimShed broadcasting around Australia. Hope you're enjoying our coverage. Of course, it's also going right around the world via our social platforms. Jeff Eddy is evidence of that, tuning in from the US of A. And for anyone that's tuning in Europe, Asia, South America, or even Africa, we hope you're enjoying our coverage. 33 laps in. Probably an opportune moment for us to do something we haven't done yet tonight.
Crank up the volume.
Exactly right. Let's do that. Let's go for a hot lap of this circuit. We'll jump on board. We've got Dylan Pereira on shot there. Let's jump on board with him. Let's go for a lap of the nation's action track, as they affectionately refer to it. 3 kilometers, 12 turns. It's tight and technical. Here's what it looks like from the cockpit of Dylan Pereira, I should say. Dylan Pereira, it was a nice on-board lap, and here he is putting all sorts of pressure on Brian Borg to the outside at 5, and Borg defends beautifully and then covers him off as they head through 6 and up towards cleavage. 7, 8, and 9 here at Winton. You're watching round 1 of the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana, and that was a taily moment for Dylan Pereira. That was a moment in which he bogged it down and washed a little bit of speed off. Technically, though, Matt Davis, as we welcome you back into the booth, it doesn't cost him as much as it would on any other part of the racetrack because of how much speed they already wash off to get through there. It's the slowest point of the racetrack, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, it could have been very costly, though. You had a lock of the rears. He's jumped on the loud pedal to try and get the car moving again, and then lit up the tyres just a little bit, and it's dropped a little bit of time to Borg, but a very good move that he had there out of 3. Lined him up perfect for 4, put him on the outside for 5, though. And that's a very long sequence through 5 there, and just could not hold it around the outside. So couldn't set himself up to jump on the inside of 6 there, which would have definitely had him onto 7. A total of 4 left-handers around Winton Motorsport Park, as well as Zach Caben, as well as 8 right-hand turns. So it's a very complex track. Takes a lot out of the tyres on the left-hand side of the vehicle. So he would have had all the grip on the right-hand side of the car there, just not enough to hold it on the outside.
Exactly right. So we've got what have we got? 2/3 race distance here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're right in that critical window where the drivers should be able to come in, fuel up, and get home. And what we'll probably see here as well, Matt, based on previous seasons and knowing that race drivers don't like change all that particularly much, is that this is where most of them take on that fresh set of rubber.
Yep, definitely. Here we go. Pereira having a look up on the inside of Borg into turn 11. He's up the inside. Can he make a stick forward? Goes to the pit lane. Plays it safe.
Yep. Borg's going to pit lane. He's got out of that. And that's probably not a bad idea, right?
That's actually a very, very clever move by Borg there. Pereira's washed off a bit of speed to go up the inside of Borg and doesn't capitalise on the exit. So Borg plays it smart. He's got the line to run to pit lane there and kept on the power out of the corner nice and early. Able to get the run into pit lane. That might prove very wise if Pereira pits this lap.
Indeed. Well, lap 37 to 54, you're watching the race leader there, Cory Shepard. What a beautiful job he's done tonight. Car number 718. This has been clinical. Yeah, okay, Dylan Rudd pipped him through the first sequence of laps in the first round of pit stops, but then Rudd come undone. And Shepard's picked up where he left off in practice and qualifying, where he left off last Tuesday night of the test session. This has been one hell of a start of the season for him and a great statement-making performance as he comes to pit lane to complete his second compulsory pit stop.
Michael Angus drive-through penalty for a pit lane infringement as well, Cabo. So another pit lane infringement of the night. I believe that's number 3 to be dished out.
Yeah. And there have been a few, but not as many as we might have anticipated being the first one of the season. Again, it comes back to your point about blowing out the cobwebs and a few other things as well. But nevertheless, we knew that race control would be busy tonight, one way or another. It's good to see that they haven't dished out too many penalties, but the night is still young. Lap 38 of 54.
Pereira's wide.
Wow. Yeah, a little bit wide on the exit of 3, but gathered it up, thankfully. He leads this race coming through turn 4, 5, then on to 6. But he and Blake Delaney, the only two yet to stop in this top end of town, because Brenton Nitschke, Brian Good, and Craig Schultz have just come in to release themselves. Mark Newton is off track at the moment as well and has been able to resume, but he's obviously had an off-track excursion going into the pit lane. There's a fair bit of moving and shaking going on in the mid-pack at the moment as the field sorts itself out through this round of pit stops. We are expecting Dylan Pereira and Blake Delaney by the lane either this lap or next. Jamie Dyke off. Oh, geez. Jamie Dyke was off the circuit there momentarily, but
he was.
He's got himself back on. Here comes Pereira as Delaney will wait to see if he comes into the lane. There's Brian Borg on your screen. A little bit of smoke out the back of that car, if you don't mind.
Jonathan Bain has gave me a message to the Chief Steward of Race Control,
Yes.
Cabo. All the pit lane infringements so far has been too long in the slow lane on either entry or exit. So that's that thing that I mentioned before, where you're only allowed one pit bay prior and one pit bay after your own pit bay. So that's where the infringements are coming from. Borg's going to get the undercut here because that little mistake by Pereira on the exit of turn 3, they're just catching the dirt. That's going to cost him just a couple tenths of a second, but he's managed to
managed to
get Borg.
He's managed to hold off Brian Borg, and not just a small hold, but a good hold as well. Borg's got a little bit of work to do if he's going to catch Pereira between now and the checkered flag. That's huge. That is huge. Now, there's plenty going on here on this racetrack at the moment. The back straight extremely busy. 15 laps to go next time by the line. Cory Shepard's on his way to a checkered flag. We've got Jamie Dyke in pit lane at the moment as well.
Oh, well, that's
climbing down the order to 22nd.
He's already at his second stop.
That's an unscheduled stop for Dyke.
It might be a pit lane drive. No, it's in the pits.
Yeah, it is. And we've got Thomas Freeman showing us out of the race now as well, boys. So he's disconnected from the server. Ben Morris already out. Bruce Tunnock still... Bruce Tunnock, to his credit, 6 laps down, but still persevering with it. He's still out there, soldiering on. Tina Alessi lap down as well. Exactly right. 118.90. Fastest lap of the motor race for Cory Shepard. That's as quick as we've seen anyone go during the race. And it's as quick as what we saw from him, actually just a smidgen quicker than what we saw from him in qualifying. So we're in uncharted territory at this end of the day. The server has clicked over to 6:25 p.m. circuit time. So that's, of course, Australian Eastern Daylight, if you want to get technical. Hello, Queensland. And we are heading towards a checkered flag here in, I'm going to say with 15 to go, 14 next time by the line. It's going to be somewhere around that 1 hour, 10, 11, maybe 12-minute mark. So it'll be, about 18:45 server time by the time these guys get the flag. And as you can see, the sun already starting to set, but obviously being March, being daylight saving, the sunset isn't until just after 7 o'clock.
That's the joys of living down in Victoria, Cabo. You get that extra little bit of daylight.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It was actually, no. I'll come back to it at the end of the broadcast. Can you just mention the economy to me at the end of the broadcast?
I don't want to get you started. I don't want to get you started on that one, mate. We could be here till, not 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
I've already given the Lord Mayor of Brisbane, Adrian Schrinner, a piece of my mind today, and the Palaszczuk's next, but that's another story. 41 to 54 here, 14 laps to go. Shepard leads Kuznetsov, Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonage, and Sean McNamara are the top 5. Biggest movers of the night. Let's have a look at this. Simon Vella up 12 positions from 23rd to 11th. Robert Crisdale up 11 from 26th to 15th. Stephen Banks from 30th up to 17th. The 3 biggest movers of the night. As far as the top 10's concerned, both Blake Delaney, Dylan Pereira have gained 7 places apiece. Cameron Jones sitting 8th has gained 6 places. And everyone else is, very, very small in the way of movement. Again, highlighting just how difficult it is to move your way up through the field at the Nation's Action track as they make their way down. Jamie Dyke still showing in pit lane. That is not a good-looking sight for Jamie Dyke.
No.
And that could be terminal. That could be retirement for him, and not a good way to start his championship.
Very surprised as well how well Costello is doing right now with that damaged car. To be able to hold on to that top 10 spot. He's got a 5-second buffer at the moment over the Century Motorsport driver of Simon Vella. So Costello's just soldiering on here. He's nowhere near in contention to challenge Delaney, but he's still got that steering damage by the looks of it. Ever so slightly, right hand down on the wheels. overcorrects it just a little. It's going to be a handful to drive. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's
The
a
field,
lot
yeah.
of steering damage.
Yeah. But the field should take note of this and be very worried about the pace of this young man when he's got a fully functioning and operational motor car, because at the moment, as you say, it is severely compromised. It's showing on the timesheet as well. Only 1 minute 20.43 last time around, a second slower than Cory Shepard. So take the damage away, and this guy's a championship contender every day of the week.
Certainly is, and to be able to punch out those laps on a new track, and I'd like to see his incident point as well, or counter at the end of the night, whether he has been taking a lot of off-track excursions, or not those off-track excursions, but those little 1%er of 1Xs where you just get a little bit of an off-track, cutting the corner just to make up that little bit of time. But to circulate only a half a tenth off race pace with a damaged car, that just goes to show the skill of this young man right here.
Absolutely. There's Rainer Costello on screen for you again, ladies and gentlemen.
And that new team as well,
Yes.
that is supporting.
I'm still getting used to the new number.
Yeah, new number, new team, Abrasic Sim Racing. And he's certainly leading the way right now, and doing that new team proud, and a change of color for him into the pink and white, which I must say stands out on the track.
Certainly does. I mean, there are a few unique liveries in this field, and a few of them that do stand out, but that one particularly makes you sit up and take notice. It just stands out because of the highlight, the shine of the pink, I think, more than anything else, the magenta. And it just, I can't pinpoint the word that I want to pinpoint at the moment, Matt.
I know it's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm probably going to say the same word, but we just cannot pinpoint it.
Yep.
I'm going to say vibrant, very vibrant.
No, I wasn't going to say that, but I agree with you. It is vibrant. Yeah.
Gone are the days of the dark colored car.
Oh, 100%. But it grabs you. It grabs your attention. That's what it does. Yeah.
It does grab your attention. Yeah, it's where you see the likes of the 9.5 boys, or the Phoenix boys right now on screen. The cars, they're still absolutely beautiful. The paint jobs and the liveries that these guys run, they're absolutely flawless, and a lot of detail and work go into them. But coming from the real world as well, myself, a black car out on track doesn't stand out like something with these vibrant colors, and the bright blues and the greens and the pinks, and and what really makes these cars stand out even more, though, again, Cabo, is these new window banners that we're running for the for 2022. Hashtag no social hate promoting, no online bullying, cyberbullying, or just bullying in general as well, ladies and gentlemen. We're a big promoter of that. We did a big initiative through the off season to promote the no social hate banner. Got all the drivers from one driver from each team to come out. We got a big photo shoot done of that, and it's just about trying to keep the cyber network clean clean and friendly, especially within the sim racing community, because it's very easy to say some things you don't mean, and at the end of the day, it turns into the mental health business that I run, where we have to support those guys, and not saying it's a bad job, it's an absolutely amazing job to do, where we support guys and try and help these people fight off the black dog, but it's stuff like cyberbullying that really brings them
down. Just want to jump in there, Matt, and say this. We've crossed the line at the end of 44 laps. We've got 44 and a half on the board now, and 9.5 to go. As we cross the line at 40 laps, 1 hour and 14 seconds. So there's about 13 minutes of car racing still to come for you tonight on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get stuck into that. Let's come back and touch on that no social hate thing again at the end of the broadcast, because that is something that we want to push, not just tonight, but right throughout the course of the season as well. And I think
just the season 2022.
I think with regards to the content that can pop up online, I think it's come to the surface and been real prominent in the media in the recent days because of that incident involving Tom Morris from Fox Sports. and not that was a social hate thing or a bullying thing, but it was certainly an inappropriate sort of context that really brought a few things to the surface that maybe we do drop the ball on a little bit. So it all ties in very nicely. Unfortunately, it had to come to the surface. Unfortunately, one person's lost their job as a result of it. It just goes to show that you can't say anything because nothing's safe these days. But credit to Megan Barnard, who's handled it like the consummate professional that she is in the last couple of days, I might add as well. She's been doing a smashing job of the World Cup coverage over there in New Zealand, as well as part of the World Feed broadcast. The Australians, of course, undefeated at the moment, the girls. Just one game left in the preliminary rounds against Bangladesh on Thursday or Friday, one of the two. So
Look at this one though, Cabo. Old rivals back at it. Nose to tail. McNamara and Leonard's battling it out right now for that 4th spot.
And this is crucial because, I mean, should anyone make a mistake up front, Rick Kuznetsov or Dylan Rudd or Cory Shepard, this becomes a battle for the podium, doesn't it? So at this stage, they're guaranteed of a top 5 if they stay where they are and keep it smooth and keep it out of harm's way for the next 8 laps as they cross the line to complete lap 46 here. But McNamara will want to send a message to the young bloke and say, look, the number 1's there for a reason. Come and get it off me. He will want 4th place tonight. But that being said, even if he doesn't get it, he'll be happy with the top 5 result because consistency was the key ingredient attributed to his success in the championship last year. He didn't win every race. He didn't factor in the results in every race, but he made sure that he kept scoring points and was consistent, and that served him so very well. Here they come again. Yeah, I think the other word we're looking for with regards to the paint scheme, Matt, is unique, because there aren't too many people that would go in that direction of pink race cars, especially males.
We see the pink mirrors come out just to signify with the Dakota Sim Sport team is and our directors just chimed in our ears saying real men wear pink, and ain't that the truth?
That is very true.
Yeah. But no, we see the Dakota Sim Sport guys, they run pink mirrors on one of their cars so we can dilute their drivers. We see one of the Century guys here, I believe, that actually is the likes of Cameron Jones supporting the yellow mirrors. So Cameron Jones with the yellow mirrors for the Century, so the Century Motorsport team. Blake Delaney is obviously in the black and white Fishy Motorsport entry. Dyke in the green and black Fishy Motorsport entry. I believe Delaney is running an orange and black for the Fishy Motorsport team as well, or it might even be red and black. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but that's how we can signify the difference in drivers as well, Cabo, and just makes our life a little bit easier to call when we see them on screen.
Got some breaking news from MotoGP, which I'll get to very shortly as well. It's got to do with Marc Marquez after that enormous high side that he had in Indonesia the other day. So I need to get through post-race.
That looked like it hurt too.
But yeah, it did, and more on that very shortly. But we'll get through the end of this race first. We'll get through our post-race, and we'll deal with a couple of little bits and pieces of housekeeping before we sign off here. That's the great thing. I mean, I thought about this at the start. How stupid does it look rocking up to Winton to just tear around in a supercar on a Tuesday afternoon in a race capacity? That's the joys of sim racing. You can go racing anytime, anywhere, any day of the week and make it look good. And these guys have done a very fine job first up in, and by which I mean, I'm not saying the night of the sim racing broadcast. I'm saying the server time, ladies and gentlemen. The server is set to today's date. It always just sits in my mind as like we've come a long way from just being a Friday, Saturday, Sunday sport. And it's the same across. I mean, how nice was it to see AFL back in its traditional time slot of 7:10 on a Wednesday night last week? I mean,
Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it now is, you know, really sport has become, and it's driven by, you know, money and business and sometimes pandemics. Sport has become a 7-day a week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days a year sort of thing. And I'm okay with that. Here's Cory Shepard doing a beautiful job out in front. We pick up a battle further back in the pack, though, in the meantime here. And that is that young Bruce Tunnock that we've got on our screen there? No.
It might have been Alessi.
Matthew
it's Matty Scholes.
Matthew Scholes. Tunnock got caught up in an incident earlier in the night. He's still a lap down, but in fact, he's still six laps down. But Matty Scholes, in the meantime, there on your screen, sitting there in 17th place. And still in the heat of battle, too. Look, he's got Brendan Nitschke and Craig Schultz right behind him. He's got Stephen Banks in front of him. Tale of two takes for Craig Schultz tonight with that unexpected trip to pit lane. He's buried a lot further down the pack than he'd like to be. So too Aaron Dodd, who had that mistake early on. He's down in 22nd place. Hayden Selwood, that drive through, sitting down there 24th. So, and Jamie Dyke, 9 laps down, almost out of business, may as well be, but he's out there to get championship points because he'll get classified at 75% race distance, being that 75% is 41 laps tonight. So, frustrating night for some of these guys. We said it at the top, and you pointed it out beautifully, Matt, that this race will, throw up a couple of surprises. There'll be a few guys come unstuck that you wouldn't normally expect it from. And true to form, Jamie Dyke's one of them. Simon Chadwick another. Aaron Dodd as well. And Aaron Dodd, he had a year full of bad luck last year. He had the pace, none of the luck.
Yeah, Dodd just had an unfortunate season last season, or should I say last year, 2021. And he started off the 2022 season with not the best of luck either, but it is a new track. And a lot of drivers, as we were saying, Craig Schultz, Matty Scholes, he's a very quick driver from the Super 2. Rainer Costello, another unfortunate one with a slight mistake there at the top end of the race. Delaney finally got past Cameron Jones as well, ladies and gentlemen. That happened off screen as well. Might be able to bring up a replay of that one. McNamara still battling Leonage for 4th position. But there's this big battle right now between Crisdale, Banks, Scholes, Nitschke, and Craig Schultz going on. And this is all going to battle out for position number 15. So that's the only real big battle pack at the moment. All the other drivers have formed into the last 4 laps of the race have all just died it down and trying to get that fuel home, trying to make those championship points count. They're going to try and race on as hard as they can, but they've got to make sure that fuel number is there. Cory Shepard, though, K-Bo, have a look at the pace of that, man. 11.2 seconds currently and climbing rapidly over his teammate Rick Kuznetsov and obviously the opposition Dylan Rudd.
It's really ballooned out and bloated in the last few laps, hasn't it? 11.7 seconds. That is an emphatic statement to send at the top of the season. Dylan Rudd's had an issue. Rehan Leonage has had an issue. Brian Borg's had an issue. Rainer Costello's had an issue. But at the same time, you looked at the practice times, you looked at the qualifying times. No one looked like stopping him tonight, with the exception of Dylan Rudd, who pipped him off the line. And that was the only difference there. He pipped him off the line. Had he not pipped him off the line, it could have been a very different story. But no, well done to Cory Shepard. This is going to be one hell of a way to enter and state your case and make your presence known in the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana. An emphatic victory. Yes, it's starting to slow down in many respects. There's not as much drama unfolding on the racetrack as we get later into the evening. However, have a look at that right on cue. Sean McNamara and Rehan Leonage, knowing that things were starting to lag a little bit, they're going to make sure that our attention's on them for the next short while, and the interest will be in who comes home 4th place. 3 laps to go for Shepard. Kuznetsov, Rudd, Leonage, and McNamara are the top 5, and McNamara all over Leonage, giving him the big hurry up here. With 3 laps to go of what's known as the nation's action track down there in Benola in northeastern Victoria. And Rehan Leonage has got a real slog fight on his hands here. Real dogfight with Sean McNamara, the defending champion, all over the back of him like a wet suit, a cheap suit at that, as they head down to turn 3. How good does Winton look at sunset, ladies and gentlemen? And how good does sunset look after 6:45, I might add, as they come round to turn 5 one more time.
I'm
Couldn't
going to
help
start
myself.
taking notes. I took notes the other night of how many pace cars came out for the Weekend Warriors on Saturday night. I'm going to take note of how many times we have a plug of Queensland and not going over progressive civilization.
Don't worry, more where that came from post-race as well. Plus the news on Mark Marquez. In the meantime, Rehan Leonard's doing a beautiful job here. And again, it's case in point, because in a couple of weeks we go to New South Wales. So the broadcast goes from 7 o'clock, 1910 time to 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to accommodate the clocks moving back in New South Wales and Victoria, and also South Australia, Tasmania.
I'm not looking forward to that one.
White flag in the air. Cory Shepard's on his way home at Winton, but our eyes are on the battle for the minor placings, 4th and 5th here. Leonage and McNamara. Leonage has done a beautiful job to keep him at bay. McNamara wanted to have a look down on the inside, thought better of it. I think for a moment there, McNamara might have thought that might have been the checkered flag. It was pulling up alongside to say good race. Now, Leonage, ultra defensive on the run up to 3. But has he done himself an injustice on the run to 4? Yes, he has. No, he can't get down on the inside. McNamara had a bow peep and then thought better of it. Now the run through 5. Leonage and McNamara, 4th and 5th. Normally, this would be a battle for 1st and 2nd. And at least it's got the script to actually emulate a battle for 1st and 2nd. It would pass as such. Such is the intensity of it. But take nothing away from this bloke, ladies and gentlemen. Cory Shepard, the 718, smashed it out of the park on the test day. The form guide true, and Cory Shepard smashes the field and dominates round 1 of the Real Sim Racing Australia Goodyear Autocare Warana Super Series. He wins the Winton 160, but here they come. Here they come. Leonage and McNamara to turn 11 for the last time. And all Leonage has to do out of this corner is keep it clean, and he'll hold McNamara and keep him at bay. Leonage gets 4th, McNamara 5th. 2nd went to Rick Kuznetsov, 3rd to Dylan Rudd. And as I said, the form guide that was written after the test day last week stayed true to form. It wasn't that there was any surprises coming our way, Matt Davis. It was a true indicator of how it tonight would play out, and Cory Shepard was dominant. Once Dylan Rudd made that mistake and Shepard had found his way by, there was just no stopping the 718 on the Benalla circuit in Victoria.
Definitely not. Shepard, just an outstanding driver tonight. Skipped out to a 14-second lead as he came across the start-finish line to claim the checkered flag. And I wonder if he's going to go pay attention to that track excursion out the back there.
Exactly.
If he, like he did last week in our little practice session. We'll have to wait and see. He does get the victory burnout, the second one for the RSRA series this season so far, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see where he goes to exactly to have a little bit of a party. But he's actually slowing right up as he comes across the start-finish line. So
okay,
he's going to be right on the main straight.
He's going to light it up on the main straight. He's not going to go to our second little burnout pad. Light it up and celebrate with Cory Shepard. What a performance that was. One hour, 13 minutes and 34 seconds, the race time tonight. We knew it would be somewhere around that 70-minute marker. And, yeah, a hard slog for all concerned here at Winton. Now is he going to the burnout pad? Now is he going to the burnout pad? Let's have a look here. We'll wait and see. We'll follow Cory Shepard with interest here, and then we'll eventually hear from him in the broadcast booth after the fact. Now he's going to park it on the racetrack, and then he escapes to the pit lane. Oh, that's unfortunate. Anyway, there's still an hour and 7 minutes left in our server time here, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to be able to watch a beautiful Benalla sunset here. In the meantime, there's Cory Shepard on top with the FORDs winning on race day. First on race day. 4th, 7th, and 10th as well. 4 played 6 in the top 10, but they got the position that counted. Rudd was second, Kuznetsov third, then Costello, Leonage, and Dodd. Borg, McNamara, Kirby, and Michael Angus made up the top 10. Matty, it's yours.
Schultz, Morris, Pereira, Jones, and Freeman. We'll see the top 15, ladies and gentlemen. See Delaney, Dyke. Not used to seeing him all the way down in 17th position there. Newton, Wade, Sheedy.
Hang on a sec. I think we've got the qualifying results there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just backtrack on that one because I got Delaney in 8.
Let's try that again. I was about to say.
Try that again. Yeah. I should have clicked on it as well, but there we go.
From the top.
Let's try again. From the top. Okay, let's try that one again. Cory Shepard, Rick Kuznetsov, 15 seconds the margin. 3 Fords and 7 Holdens in the top 10. So it makes for less pretty reading for the Fords, but they still got the position that mattered. Kuznetsov, Rudd, Leonage, McNamara, then Borg, Pereira, Delaney, Costello, and Jones. I just had one of those Anchorman moments, Matt Davis, where I read what was on the screen, and look where that got me. Let's go 11 through 20.
Position 11. We got Simon Vala, followed up by David Kirby, Wade Sheedy. And then we start going into the lap drivers after we got Michael Angus in 14th. Robert Crisdale a lap down, Stephen Banks, Matty Scholes, Brenton Nitschke, Schultze down in 19th, and Mark Newton rounding out your top 20 there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll let those scroll on through for you there as we wait for the podium to come up on board.
Yep. With no disrespect to Kuznetsov and Shepard, who are going to join us here, we'll have to have a very quick chat with Dylan Rudd tonight because he's got a 3 a.m. alarm tomorrow morning. In the meantime, outside the top 20 there, if we can just scroll back, 21st place was in the end Brian Good, then Aaron Dodd, Ben Simon Chadwick, Hayden Sell, John Gillies, Dean Alessi, then Bruce Tunnock, then Jamie Dyke, Thomas Freeman, and Ben Morris. So once you look past Bruce Tunnock, you start to get to that long list of retirements there. Jamie Dyke came home in 28th, and then it was Freeman and Morris, the non-finishers in all of that. Well done to 28 of the drivers who got home and got classified tonight. 2, unfortunately, not being able to achieve that. Jamie Dyke, very lucky, of course. 41 was the cutoff. He got to 45. Let's have a chat with a few drivers here post-race. We'll get to Cory Shepard. We'll get to Rick Kuznetsov. We've got Dylan Rudd standing by. Let's start there because he is on borrowed time. Dylan, interesting start to the season. A good start. I mean, you've got a 3rd place to your name there. You've got a good haul of points, but it's a case of what might have been because you led almost the opening half of the race. The first stint, beautifully executed. The start was so critical and you nailed it.
Yeah, cheers, Zach. A few little mistakes in there on my behalf that I'm a little bit frustrated about, but yeah, overall, solid result.
We weren't surprised by mistakes tonight. We knew that was going to be one of the key ingredients, one of the key factors to take into the equation here, because of it being a new track and everyone being on a level playing field, and it really showed.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely it's not the easiest track to put a lap together and do 54 clean laps. So yeah.
And a long race as well, mate. I mean, the better part of 73 and a half minutes there for our race winner. So, I mean, some of these 160-kilometre races, they're done within an hour. Winton being tight and technical, you really got to work hard for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, quickly to you, I know you're on borrowed time here, mate, but we appreciate you sticking around to have a chat to us. Just talk us through. I mean, obviously the start was brilliant. It was very follow the leader-esque there for the opening stint. No one was too game to make a move. Everyone was happy to settle into a rhythm, get a read of the opposition around them, and then make their move in that second stint. Just a couple of little mistakes from you, and that was all it took to give Cory Shepard the clear break and the gap that he needed to just accelerate away. It's an outstanding arrive and perform effort from him to put everyone on notice that this guy's here and he means business. It's not dissimilar to the way you launched on the scene here for the 9-5 guys midway through last season.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think I had the outright pace for of Cory tonight, but I think the majority of the race, all the guys were just on the fuel save, so it's pretty well just follow each other and save as much fuel as you can.
I had a couple of quick ones for you here, and then we'll let you thank your sponsors and shoot through. And if Matty Davis has one or two that he might want to throw your way, we'll let him do so. But for you, how much sim racing has been done in the 100 days between the Bathurst 1000 win and this one tonight, mate? So how much work's gone into the off season?
Oh, I wouldn't say a great deal. I've probably done a more GT driving than I have V8 driving in the off season. Only really just started getting back into the V8 last couple of weeks. So yeah, definitely wasn't 100% comfortable, but still good enough for P3.
And when you look at the calendar, mate, I mean, let's start with Winton and then we'll work our way forward. Question with regards to Winton. How much, I mean, it's only been, as we said in the opener, it's only been in the server for a couple of weeks. Everyone's had the same preparation time in terms of the same opportunity, the same amount of time. But how much time have you actually taken to get some miles on this racetrack and get yourself prepared for tonight?
I think I didn't do much. I think I only did about 150, maybe 200 laps practice or testing. But yeah, wasn't totally happy with the setup of the car. Actually joined the practice server and was changing the setup because it felt terrible, but tuned her up for the race and it went all right.
Thoughts on the overall calendar, Dylan? Because I said at the start that I didn't think that this was the greatest circuit for supercars based on Winton being a little bit tight, a little bit narrow, a little bit technical, and the supercars really excelling and showing their muscle on the bigger, higher horsepower circuits. But when you look at the rest of the calendar, Barber we know, Mosport's great for racing. Long Beach we've done 1,000 times before. Lime Rock Park's going to be very interesting and very challenging. Road Atlanta, Imola, Oran Park we know and love. Donington, Interlagos always throws up good racing. And then, of course, the two high horsepower tracks, Road America and Mount Panorama. You were one of the critical outspoken drivers last year when we started with 3 consecutive Grand Prix circuits in the third season of racing there, saying that these Grand Prix tracks don't suit these cars. For the most part, we avoid them for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, there are definitely some good tracks on the calendar and definitely a few shockers. So bit of mix of both, but obviously everyone's got to turn up for every round. So see how we go, chug along for the rest of the season.
And that point there, one we'll focus on as the season goes on, ladies and gentlemen. Turning up, it is a key ingredient to success in this championship. Unfortunately, Dylan knows that better than anybody because he missed out last season by virtue of missing Long Beach by the skin of his teeth due to other commitments getting in the way. Anything to add from you, Matt Davis, or shall I let this guy thank some sponsors and rock and roll?
Just look, it's good to have you back for 2022, Dill, and mate, let's let you have the floor and thank some sponsors before you nick off, grab some Z's, and wake up for work nice, bright, and early in the morning.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, I'd just like to thank Sean at 95 Sim Sport. Puts in a lot of work behind the scenes for the team. Our sponsors, Racecraft Simulations, RSW Graphics, Racing Years Custom Ear Protection, Cutting Edge Tracks, and Bauer Media, and JP for putting on the series, you guys for the commentary, and Rick and Cory on the other podium spots.
All right, mate. Looking forward to seeing what you bring to the table when we get to Motorsport Park, Barber Motorsport Park, I should say. I mean, that's a circuit that we know. That's a circuit that we've visited before. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes things up because, as we said, Winton was an even playing field tonight, and you were still right at the pointy end of town, and we weren't surprised by any of that. So look forward to seeing what you bring to the table next week, mate. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I don't envy you with the early alarm tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Dylan Rudd, we'll let him rock and roll because he's got an ungodly 3 a.m. alarm tomorrow morning. So that now brings us to Rick Kuznetsov and Cory Shepard. And what about this for a debut from these two in the RSRA Super Series on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting with thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana. I mean, Cory brought everything to the table and a little bit more last week in the test night here and, wiped the floor with his competition, and he backed it up and continued that performance tonight. Cory, let's bring you in and bring Rick in as well and have a chat here. Unbelievable effort. The start didn't go to script, but the end is exactly what you would have liked to see. A comfortable victory. 15 seconds in the end. It really bloated out. It ballooned out in the closing laps there. 15.26 the winning margin, and one hell of a statement to make at the start of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely been a strong start to the season, which is really cool to see. The start didn't go as well as we had hoped, but Dylan got a ripper start and got past. But after that, we were trying to kind of maybe see if we could get past him, but it's really tricky track to like find a spot to make you move and make it. So kind of sat behind a little bit and fuel saved where we could. Kind of held on and waited for the second stint.
We're a little bit late getting into the post-race show tonight because the race went as long as it did, but we'll still try and get everybody out of here as close to 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time as we can. That said, Cory, you're a new name to our server. We're familiar with your work, but for those that aren't, give us a little bit of your background and what brings you here to Tuesday Night Motorsport, please.
So I've been doing a lot of supercar racing. That's been my main focus. And I saw Brian join the series last season, and he said he had a great time. So we saw there was a lot of competition, and looked like it was going to be a really good series to be a part of. So we thought we'd jump in and give it a go. And it's been really great. So looking forward to next round.
Matt, anything you want to ask our race winner before I launch in with a few more questions?
I was going to say that he asked for some competition, but he comes out first race and blitzes the field by 15.5 seconds, Cabo. So that's an interesting one. Mate, tyre strategy for you tonight. Heard last night in the Super 2E series, a couple of boys saying that they weren't too bad, but obviously the left side of the car took a fair beating. How did you go managing your tyres tonight?
Yeah, I think the tyre management was all kind of done in the first stint because we put tyres on in the second pit stop. So I think it was actually easier for me sitting behind Dylan, not being in front, making the mistake. So I think not having the pressure as much and actually being able to put on a little bit onto Dylan to try and upset his tyres was actually quite helpful. So we didn't go too badly with the tyres.
We picked that, didn't we, Matt Davis?
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah. Yep. And that is just common trace, common trend, common practice for a lot of these guys to go second pit stop for that fresh set of rubber. Cory, we were a little bit disappointed, actually, because on the test day, you went out the back and found the skid pan for the burnouts, the celebrations. Not so tonight. What happened to the excursion, please?
Oh, we weren't actually too sure about the rules with that. So
you're allowed. As long as you cross that finish line and you've crossed that control line, mate, the racetrack's all yours. You can go do a burnout down the back straight if you wanted to once you've crossed that control line. So, Cabo as well, as I said before, you muted yourself. He new to the season, he wanted some competition, but he comes out and blitzes the field by 15.5 seconds. So you missed that just as you muted your headphones to quickly walk away. But no, you're allowed to go find that burnout track. So next time we do visit Winton, mate, if you do go back to back at Winton, feel free to go and venture out to that burnout track again. I
feel a little bit of an expression session coming on from not just him, but anyone else when next time we go to Winton. That being said, just got a memo from Rainer Costello. Good evening to him. That was a tough one with some laughing, crying emojis attached to it for good measure. Still bag some points onto the next one. So hopefully we'll see Rainer Costello back at his best next week. Cory, it's a new circuit on the server. How much time and preparation went into the event before we got to practice tonight, please?
We definitely jumped on and did some team practice, race runs, and definitely tried to get up to speed pretty quick because it is a new track and everyone's been thrown in the deep end with it. Nobody really knows how to go about driving the track. So we definitely put in a fair bit of effort to get up to speed, and I think we come out quite well.
Yeah, well, exactly right. I mean, yourself and Rick Kuznetsov have absolutely tore it to shreds tonight. The critical thing was track position and not making mistakes. And you had track position right throughout the course of the night. As soon as you found a way past Dylan Rudd, the rest was history. And I guess the mental challenge from there was just hitting your markers and not hitting any of the sand or grass that was waiting to collect any innocent bystanders on the wayside on the way around.
Yeah, that's it. It's definitely one of the tracks that's a bit more tricky to stay consistent. There's a few nasty curbs out there where if you hit them wrong or you hit a bump slightly off, you're definitely going to find yourself in the fence. So that was definitely tricky, but yeah, we were really happy with how we managed our mistakes.
Were you a little bit disappointed with your start and the way in which Dylan Rudd was able to pip you?
Yeah, obviously that wasn't ideal, but I think we made it work in the end, being able to save our tyres and some fuel, so that was all good.
Excellent stuff. Stay there, mate. I want to ask you a couple more questions, and we'll get back to you very shortly. But firstly, let's bring in the superstar that is Rick Kuznetsov, if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, because by G, I'm familiar with this bloke's work through my work over on the Gentleman Sim Racing Club, as JP and Matt would know. And he didn't disappoint tonight. Mate, welcome into you. Phenomenal debut in the RSRA Super Series. And, I mean, not without its moments. There were a couple of moments there where you were in the heat of battle. You had to work hard for that one. But in the end, you were able to hold off Dylan Rudd and bring it home in second place. A nice way to bank a stash of championship points at the start of the season.
Yeah, it was awesome to get 1-2 for PRT. It was a tough race. At the end, I had to go full field safe, realizing I had to back to the pits at the end of the race. So I had to save a leader in 3 laps. It was a bit of a panic. But then got it. Got the second place, and it was an awesome team.
Now, just quickly, if we can bring the race results back up, just to remind everybody of how these two tore it to shreds, JP, tonight, I just want to bring your attention to one very key important point here, and that is that we had Cory Shepard dominate in a Ford and Rick Kuznetsov dominate in a Holden, yet the key word that they used there just a moment ago was teammates. So can someone explain to me what discussion might have been had leading into this round as to who runs what manufacturer? Is it important that we run the same manufacturer, or are we happy to go our own way and paint the cars different? What went on there, please? Because normally you don't associate teammates with different manufacturers unless you're talking to Gary Rogers Motorsport in TCR.
Yeah, I think it's sim racing, so it's a bit different. I prefer to hold it myself. Cory's been using the Ford for a long time, so it's just personal preference, to be honest.
Fair enough. On that note, have you? I mean, I know you prefer the Holden, mate, but have you had any time in the Ford?
Yeah, last season I was getting the 8, so I was using it a bit.
Yep.
And decided I want to go back to Holden because I'm a bit of a Holden fan. So
Not only that, the dash layout's better.
Yeah, I reckon so as well.
Now, just quickly, I gave Cory the opportunity. Give everybody who doesn't know your background a little bit of an update on what brought you to this very point to SimShed Broadcasting's Tuesday Night Motorsport showpiece, please.
It'll be the same as Cory. Brian did the series last season. Told everyone that was good. For the whole team for us for the next season. It's been an awesome first race for everyone.
And I guess that says a lot about word of mouth, Matt Davis, doesn't it? I mean, we talk all the time about social media and spreading the word, and this series in either the Monday night or the Tuesday night capacity is being noticed, and that's evident by the new names that are popping up both on Monday night and Tuesday night as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's the word of mouth really goes, and it's not just word of mouth as well. It's the social media side of things. It's we stretch far and wide. We've got Jeff Eddy watching from the USA. We've had guys watching over New Zealand, in Europe. So the word of mouth really does stretch far and wide. We even have a Frenchman. He doesn't actually race in France. He's based in Australia, but he is a Frenchman racing in the RSRA for the Super 2E series. So it really does go to show the far and wide nationality as well that we do have amongst the race drivers, amongst the Super 2 and Super Series.
Yeah, wow. I don't really know what to say about that because we've got through 108 laps of racing at Winton across the 2 nights, and we've done it safety car free, ladies and gentlemen. That's a testament to the ability and the standard of the series and the drivers that put the show on to get around here and not trigger a safety car in over 324 or thereabouts kilometers of racing. Just phenomenal stuff. Rick, just talk us through your race, please, because obviously your teammate had the edge on you. You were a distant second, but I mean, it was a case of at one point there you were battling for second, third, fourth, and fifth. It eventually settled down, but you had to rely on other people to muck up, for lack of better words, to be able to move your way forward. It just goes to show how difficult this race was, how difficult this track is, and that overtaking round here, the opportunities are very much at a premium.
Yeah, overtaking is definitely tricky on this track. I was initially struggling with braking throughout the race, so it was just adapting setup. But yeah, I was just making the spots when I can. When Cory passed Dylan, I said on my opportunity as well. Try to dive in there and then end up working. It was awesome.
You only just in the end fended off Dylan Rudd. He kept you honest there right towards the very end. It was only 0.6. I mean, an inch is as good as a mile, but that was a little bit too close for comfort at that point of the race, I would have thought.
Yeah, I had a bit of a gap, like 4.8 seconds. And then Ryan on the radio said you need to save fuel, make the end of the pits. So panicked and decided to fuel saving really aggressively for the last 3 laps. Managed to get us.
That explains exactly why that margin bloated from 11 seconds out to 15 in those closing few laps. Oh wow, what a night! So I'm going to assume, Rick, without knowing full well, that what Cory said about some team practice sessions here, you would have been right in the thick of that.
Yeah, 100%. Team practice is was good for preparation. So yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, we can talk about all the other circuits in a moment, and we will, because, I mean, they're known staples in the iRacing platform. But when it's a new circuit, it's so much harder, isn't it? Because everyone's on the same playing field, and there's no previous data to go off. There's no fixed setups attached to it or anything like that. It's pretty much that you've got to get out there and fend for yourself.
Yeah, definitely a new track. There's no real setup to base off. It's just making your setup work for the race. So preparation is really important. And also it's a new track, so everyone's got to get used to the grips of the V8s and the track on.
That being said, there are some people, Matt, and they're very talented people, far more than I, that can rock up, arrive and drive and still, clean it up and tear it to shreds. But these two guys right here, and I know because we've spoken to Rick in the GSRC in the past, they pride themselves on pre-race preparation and getting into practice servers and getting a feel for things well before we get to Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, I already know one person that decides to rock up with only 50 laps under the belt, and that's Rainer Costello. Sometimes he gets next to no practice and still blitzes the entire field. It's just one of those freak natures, but he does come unstuck as well at the same time. But it's the practice on a new track. It really does come down to key, doesn't it, Cabo? And also Cory and Rick. It's it gets you the brake markers that you need. You're able to push the boundaries, find out where your absolute utmost limit is on the racetrack, and that's where you know how to push on those qualifying laps. And I mean, you've got 2 completely different setups as well, Cabo, that you've got to mind fit between qualifying and race setups. So race trim's sort of a bit more of a stable car than a quali trim, but nevertheless they're almost the same, and the guy still pushes hard just every single lap.
One thing that we didn't get to see play out, Matt, because of Dylan Rudd's mistake, was Cory going into pit lane and stopping 2 seconds longer in race 1. How much of an invoice that would mean everyone else would have to pay on the second round of pit stops. What was the plan of attack there, if you don't mind me asking, Cory?
Well, obviously we were going to have to take extra fuel because we stretched out our first stint. But we did think that might have paid off in the end, just in case we didn't we knew what was going on, but we thought it would be better off to save that little bit extra fuel, go a lap further, and we even got a bit of clean air on that lap when everybody else pitted. So that was.
And so in saying that, you were playing a tactical game there, hoping that if for whatever reason you couldn't find a way via Dylan Rudd on the racetrack, you could do it in the pits.
Yeah, possibly. We weren't too sure, but we were going to give that a bit of a go.
All right, boys. It's 25 past 10 Eastern Daylight Time. We won't keep you guys too much longer, except to ask a couple of basic questions. how did you guys spend the off season? Because everyone had a little bit of a break over Christmas and New Year. How much time was dedicated to the sim rig between when you last went racing in 2020 and you first went racing in 2021? And how much racing have you done this year before now?
Me personally, I think even for the whole team, it's been quite a slow and quiet start to the year. There hasn't been a great deal of things on, but definitely been a few series we've been a part of, and we've been practicing and racing a lot of those. But yeah, it's probably been a quieter start than usual.
And what about you, Rick?
Yeah, same as what Cory said. There's not many races off season, and everyone's got their own family, so everyone just goes spends time on the holidays. So there's not much sim driving until there's a round one of any series.
Very nicely done. Now, just quickly reminding everybody of the calendar for the rest of the season. We go to Barber Motorsport Park, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Motorsport, of course, to Long Beach, then to Lime Rock, Road Atlanta, Imola, Oran Park, Donington Park, then into Lagos, Road America, and then Mount Panorama. That's the next 11 weeks consecutively. There's no break in between here. We race right through. That's the day after Easter Monday, the day after the day after Anzac Day. We're here all throughout the season, and we're looking forward to it immensely. Super sprint rounds at Long Beach and Oran Park. That will throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Endurance races at Road Atlanta and Mount Panorama. Rick, your thoughts on the calendar and what you're looking forward to and what you're not looking forward to?
There's definitely a few tough tracks in the calendar. I'm not looking forward to Barber that much. I'm not a big fan with the V8s. I do like driving other cars, but Barber's V8s is not the greatest combo for me. And Lime Rock, never done it before, so that's going to be interesting. I reckon passing is going to be a bit painful, like Winton tonight. Imola's a good track. Road America is also a good track. Bathurst is typical. Racing always. And everything else is solid.
Excellent stuff. And Cory, you're undoubtedly going to be the man with the target on your back now because you've just come in and cleaned up in round one. What are you looking forward to? Are there any circuits there that you think are going to test you, or are you fairly confident with what's on the schedule there?
Yeah, there's definitely a fair few tough tracks on the schedule. Long Beach, Lime Rock, they're all very small, quite technical tracks, so they'll be quite tricky. Definitely looking forward to tracks like Mosport, Road America. There are a few of the favourites there, and obviously Bathurst. That's always going to be the favourite. Always have to time at Bathurst.
All right. Anything else to add from you, Matt Davis, or shall we let these guys do some thank yous and rock and roll?
Well, I can get the sponsors out of the way, check out some championship points if we haven't already, and I reckon wrap things up.
We'll get the championship points in just a moment. I want these guys to thank their sponsors firstly. Rick Kuznetsov, we'll go with you firstly, mate. Second place, well done.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Racecraft Simulation, Advanced Machinery, PPG, Refinish Australia New Zealand, Supercar Cafe, and TMD Clean Service.
And Cory, as I said in the opener of the post-race show here, the pre-season test, as we call it, from last Tuesday, the form guide that was written from that stayed true to form, and you came in and picked up where you left off last week. So you're the man with the wins on the board and the runs on the board. Let's hear from you now as you thank some sponsors after an emphatic victory in the Winton 160.
Yeah, big thanks to Racecraft and all the other team sponsors, and also big thanks to everyone inside of the team. Done really well to work together and come away with a really great result. Really cool to see. Also, yeah, big thanks to Mum and Dad and everyone watching on at home. All team effort, and yeah, big thanks to everyone.
All right, very nicely done, boys. Looking forward to seeing you in action at Barber Motorsport Park next week. Cannot wait for that. Another sprint round there, 42 laps. We did it last year, and it had fireworks from first until last. We're expecting no different next week. Go and rest up and enjoy the celebrations on the night that was, and we look forward to doing it again in 7 days' time.
Guys, have a good night.
Cheers, guys.
Clean race rewards, bonus points tonight too. It should be noted, ladies and gentlemen. Dean Alessi, Michael Angus, and also Rick Kuznetsov. So on that note, probably an opportune time for us to have a look at the championship points if we can, and let you know who's done what after the opening round of the season. There it is. Cory Shepard, with by virtue of that pole position, grabs himself a 2-point lead over Rick Kuznetsov. those boys getting a 1-point bonus for both the clean race and also the pole position, respectively. Dylan Rudd on 146, and an inch is as good as a mile, Matt Davis. We've said it before. 1 point is all that you need up your sleeve to win these things. So those guys will be happy that they've got an extra point on the pack after those clean results tonight. Dylan Rudd, 146, Rian Leonage, 144, then Sean McNamara, 2-point gaps all the way back through. Brian Borg, Dylan Pereira, Blake Delaney, Rainer Costello, Cameron Jones. We'll let that scroll on through. We want to thank a few people that make it possible for us to do what we do here at SimShed Broadcasting, not just Monday, Tuesday night, but also Saturday night as well. We'll have a look ahead at our broadcast schedule for you in just a moment on that note. In the meantime, huge thanks to Goodyear Autocare Warana, Real Sim Racing Australia, SimShed Broadcasting, and FU Suicide. And special thank yous also and shout outs to Track Cams for Gourmet, SDK Gaming, Overpass Visuals, and Sim Inc. Matt Davis, where do we start in analysing that one and summarising it and summing it up? Because really, to be fair, the guys that we expected to play, championship favourites at the top end of town, Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonard, Sean McNamara, even you could throw Brian Borg, Jamie Dyke in there as well, Rainer Costello. They've now got two big names to contend with here, and they've got their work cut out for them if tonight's any guide, because Netsov and Shepard have arrived and they've dominated and they've sent a message, haven't they?
Yeah, they certainly have dominated and sent a message to the boys, but they've also got the target on their backs now to be the ones to beat from PRT. It's going to be interesting to see what the likes of Bud, Costello, McNamara, those guys that were always up the front of the field last year. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do at Barber next week when we head out there. It's going to be familiar territory for them. We know those guys are strong as always on some well-known tracks. So tricky one out of the way, which is Winton. On to the stuff that we know of, and they've already got setups already dialed in for. This is going to be absolutely cracker season already, especially with such close racing all night long. It's definitely going to be a season to watch.
Who's your driver of the night? Go to, please.
Oh, don't do that to me.
No.
Look, I said Cory Shepard will win. The driver of the night, though, it's definitely a hard one to choose. I'm actually, the director just tried in my ear just then. I reckon it's definitely Rainer Costello. I mean, driving with a broken car, still only half a second off the race pace, and finishing just inside the top 10 there. Definitely, I think driver of the night goes to Rainer.
I want to give an honourable mention to Daniel Stevens, our safety car driver,
yes,
because he waltzed out onto the circuit for the warm-up session there whilst the driver's briefing was being conducted, parked it, and didn't get another Guernsey for the rest of the night, didn't get called upon. So
I think he even fell asleep.
He had the best seat in the house. He had no work to do, and that made it very easy for race control. It made it very easy for us here in the booth as well. And he had the best job in pit lane because he was able to just put the feet back, relax, and enjoy the spectacle that was out on the racetrack without having to go and intervene and interrupt it at any point. Fantastic stuff. Now, a couple of bits of breaking news here before we rock and roll. The first one is that Mark Marquez has been diagnosed with a new episode of diplopia, which is, of course, double vision. That's an ongoing situation for him. It's plagued him 2020 into 21 and now again in 2022. It comes on the back of that enormous high side in the Indonesian Grand Prix warm-up on Sunday, and it could well impact his presence in the next few rounds of the championship, which is so disappointing for the multi-time world champion. The other thing as well, Matt Davis, and I've been saying this right throughout the course of the night, I wanted to tee off at some point here, and I'm just going to do it very quickly. The federal government, the state government, and the Brisbane City Council all contributed $600 million to what they call a $1.8 billion plan for the livability, the well-being, and the economic boost of Brisbane, the city, over the next 2 decades, and it'll also have ongoing beneficial ramifications for southeast Queensland, allegedly. Yet it's been pointed out time and time again, it gets raised every time the debate is discussed, about the economical benefits of daylight saving, which would be $4.35 billion a year which in the same period would be $87 billion. Am I missing something? They can pull the other one at Place Jingle Bells. They
It's
can talk
those
about
cows. It's those cows, Cabo.
Yeah, I know. They
Gotta
can
think
talk
of the
about
cows.
$1.8 billion all they like, but 4.35 over the course of, 6 months as opposed to 1.8 over 20 years. Fair dinkum, what a pack of morons.
You
What a
picks.
pack of frogs. Yeah, exactly. All right, on that note, I'm done. I just wanted to get that one out and let off some steam before we rock and roll out here on a Tuesday night. We've had fun, haven't we? It's been a great way to start the new season. I hope
there's
you've
only more to
enjoyed it as
come.
well, and there's plenty more to come on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting as the sun sets in northeastern Victoria. That's what we got coming your way. Where are the stock cars off to this week, please?
Watkins Glen. We are going
very
away
nice.
from turning left, and we're going to start turning right finally for the stock cars.
Oh, I'm disappointed I'm not going to be here. That will be worth the price of
Likewise.
admission on Saturday night, 7:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. That's the next assignment for SimShed Broadcasting, the latest round of the Custom Paints and Diecast Australian Stock Car Championship. That will be coming your way on Saturday night. Then 5 past 8 Australian Eastern Daylight Time next Monday night. Matt Davis, Dean Reddit, rocking and rolling in here for round 2 of the Real Sim Racing Australia Super 2 E-Series. That's coming away from Barber Motorsport Park. And then we back it up at 5 past 8 on Tuesday night, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, with our coverage of the second round of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries from the same venue, a sprint round, and we're looking forward to that. As I said, 8 sprint rounds, 2 super sprints, 2 enduros throughout the course of this season. And the boys that ran 1-2 tonight, the new team on the block, they have sent a statement, sent a message to the rest of the competition with a dominant performance, a dominant display at Winton Raceway. Cory Shepard getting the job done from Rick Kuznetsov and Dylan Rudd. Everything to play for in the next 11 weeks, but those two with the target on their back and a eager pack wanting to bear down on them and chase them down and hunt them every step of the way and make a game of it, because there'll be a few guys out there tonight that will be licking their wounds and thinking what might have been by virtue of a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes. And in the case of Rainer Costello, just unfortunately one of those situations where you were in the wrong place at the wrong time and there was absolutely nothing he could have done about it. And we feel sorry for him, but we know that he'll bounce back from that. You can either describe that as character building, to be fair, because there's no other nice way to put it. Matt Davis, thank you very much to you for your efforts in expert commentary tonight. Looking forward to your company again next week. You and I get to team up all season long, and I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks to JP and all the crew behind the scenes that make it happen. Not just JP from punching the buttons and producing the broadcast for us and making us sound some way decent, but also the team in race control and everybody that makes the series happen, because we wouldn't be able to put on the show that we put on without you. And well done to all the drivers, because as we said, it was a venture into the unknown. They didn't let us down. They did us proud tonight. They put on a great show, a little bit lackluster in parts by virtue of the nature of the racetrack they were on, but certainly plenty of entertainment that whets the appetite for so much more across the course of the next 11 weeks. We've got 2 more visits to Australian circuits between now and season's end, but we've got the United States as well as Brazil, Canada, the UK, and Italy to look forward to in the meantime as well. We head to the US next week, Barber Motorsport Park. Look forward to your company then. And of course, the full week on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, your US running, because it starts on Saturday night with the stock cars from Watkins Glen, continues from Barber in Birmingham, Alabama, Monday and Tuesday. Just remember those times, 7:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday night, 8:05 Monday and Tuesday. And when we get to the following week, because daylight saving will be gone by then, thankfully for me, because I won't go as insane as I have done over the last 6 months, we will be back to Australian Eastern Standard Time, but it will again be 7:20 and 8:05. On behalf of Matt Davis, JP, and all the crew here from SimShed Broadcasting from the virtual Winton Raceway, Ned Kelly country, we're done. Round 1 in the books. 100 days on from the final outing of the previous season. The new season has launched in a tremendous way. Cory Shepard getting the job done for the Fords. Rick Kuznetsov, Dylan Rudd rounding out the podium. We look forward to doing it all again next week right here on SimShed Broadcasting. For the team, I'm Zach Caben. Bye for now.